Chapter 284. Entering the soul-cursed tower. Zhuo Wen's eyes flickered as he watched Su Yang and Su Qi enter the spirit spell tower. He took a step forward and shot towards the spirit spell tower like a bolt of lightning. When he was still 10 miles away from the soul-cursed tower, Zhuo Wen's figure came to a halt as he was blocked by a transparent restriction. For a moment, transparent ripples appeared in front of him. What a powerful restrictive power! Zhuo Wen's face couldn't help but be surprised as he touched the restriction in front of him. It's just as Master Ku Ya said. Only an ultimate Emperor realm expert can forcefully break through a restriction like this. It's impossible for them to break through it. Looks like I'll need a seal crystal to do so. As he spoke, Zhuo Wen took out the seal-breaking crystal from his bosom and poured his yuan energy into the crystal. Instantly, a powerful energy fluctuation burst out from the crystal. What surprised Zhuo Wen was that when the ripple of energy approached the restriction in front of him, it was like the most corrosive acid. A hole as tall as a person instantly appeared in the restriction. Without any hesitation, Zhuo Wen took a step forward and charged into the hole. After passing through the restriction, Zhuo Wen arrived in front of the soul-cursed tower. The soul-cursed tower had a total of 9 floors. Every floor was dozens of meters tall. Mental energy flowed on the surface of the tower like colorful streams of light, emitting a colorful glow. The door to the first floor was 10 meters tall. It was wide open on both sides. At a glance, the inside of the door was pitch black, making it look rather eerie and strange. Zhuo Wen stood in front of the door and quietly stared at the majestic soul-cursed tower. His heart was filled with shock. From Master Ku Ya's introduction, the soul-cursed tower was actually built purely from the interweaving of mental energy. Just how much mental energy would be required to build such a majestic soul-cursed tower? Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. An ear-piercing sound immediately rang out beside Zhuo Wen. Numerous figures passed by Zhuo Wen, impatiently rushing through the door. Clearly, these participants could no longer contain the excitement in their hearts. They wanted to see the splendor of the soul-cursed tower. It's said that the soul-cursed tower is a strange treasure created by countless Arcanist ancestors in Broken Rock City. The mental energy of this treasure is so enormous that it's not weaker than the legendary 5th grade Arcana Master. Zhuo Wen's eyes were filled with fanaticism as he muttered to himself. He had only heard of the existence of a grade 5 Arcana Master in legends. It was said that even the ruler of the Qing Xian Empire, the Qing Emperor, did not dare to slight an Arcana Master of such strength. However, grade 5 Arcanists were too rare. Even the president of Broken Rock City's Arcane Guild, Master Ku Ya, was only at the peak of the lesser success of grade 4. Moreover, Master Ku Ya had been stuck at the lesser success of grade 4 for more than 10 years without any progress. It could be seen how difficult it was to advance one's mental strength after reaching grade 4. Let's go in. Kid, the soul-cursed tower is indeed a good thing. It gathers the mental energy of countless Arcanists and has the effect of increasing one's perception. Furthermore, I can sense that there are many hidden benefits within the spirit-cursed tower. Black's excited voice immediately sounded in Zhuo Wen's mind. Hearing this, Zhuo Wen nodded slightly and took a step into the door. Once he entered, Zhuo Wen suddenly felt a strong mental energy pressure rush towards him. It instantly enveloped him. Zhuo Wen couldn't help but feel his body sink and his knees bend slightly. As expected of the soul-cursed tower, the mental energy pressure on the first floor is actually not weaker than that of an initial grade 2 Arcana Master. If an initial grade 2 Arcana Master were to enter the first floor, they would probably have a hard time. With a shake of his shoulders, the yuan power in his body erupted and easily dispelled the mental energy pressure on his body. The first floor wasn't very big. It was about the size of Vine Armor City's God's Stone Plaza. There weren't many people on the first floor. Only a few figures were walking slowly and unsteadily. It was obvious that they were the weakest among those who entered the soul-cursed tower this time. Their strength was around the initial grade 2 Arcana Master. In the center of the first floor was a flight of steps made of limestone. The steps led to the second floor. Zhuo Wen took a step forward and quickly walked towards the center of the steps. Under the envious gazes of the unsteady figures, Zhuo Wen arrived in front of the steps. There wasn't a trace of fatigue or burden on his face. When he arrived in front of the steps, Zhuowen discovered that the steps were actually formed by the interweaving of pure mental energy. The surface of the steps flickered with a golden light and overflowed with colorful lights. It gave off a somewhat unreal feeling. Moreover, the mental energy pressure on the steps was much denser than the other places. It seems that the Soul Curse Tower's mental energy pressure is mainly on the steps. I'm afraid this is the Soul Curse Tower's test. If I can cross it, I will successfully enter the next floor. If I can't, I will be eliminated. After glancing at the steps, Zhuowen took a step forward and directly stepped onto the steps. In an instant, the countless amounts of mental energy on the steps were like compressed air as they continuously converged on Zhuowen's body. The terrifying power it produced was almost enough to cause the air to explode. With a cold snort, Zhuowen slightly shifted his shoulders. The yuan power in his body surged out and formed a thin layer of yuan power on the surface of his body. The mental energy that was like a tidal wave was immediately blocked by the yuan power on the surface of Zhuowen's body. Thud, thud, thud. In the blink of an eye, Zhuowen stepped onto the steps and disappeared at the end of the first floor. On the first floor, the few arcana masters who were walking unsteadily stared blankly at the youth who had easily stepped onto the steps. That must be Zhuowen. The youth who refined the perfect seal crystal and suppressed Su Yang in the second round? Sigh. He's quite a bit younger than us, but his mental energy cultivation is far above ours. However, when I saw Zhuowen step onto the steps, why didn't I sense any mental energy being released from him? That's right. I didn't sense any mental energy undulations from Zhuowen's body either. Instead, a layer of yuan power appeared on the surface of his body and easily blocked the mental energy pressure from the steps. At this point, the few arcana masters were suddenly shocked as if they had thought of something. They couldn't help but look at each other and exclaim, "The yuan power on the surface of Zhuowen's body is actually yuan power." He actually used yuan power to block the mental energy pressure from the steps. Doesn't this mean that his martial arts realm isn't weak at all? After entering the second floor, Zhuowen discovered that there were a lot more people on the second floor than on the first floor. Moreover, the mental energy pressure on the second floor was many times stronger than on the first floor. It should have reached the level of advanced grade 2 arcana masters. Those who were still lingering on the second floor were basically advanced grade 2 arcana masters. Perhaps they would have an easier time on the first floor, but it would be much more difficult on the second floor. This was because the mental energy pressure on the second floor was no weaker than that of an advanced grade 2 arcana master. Upon reaching the second floor, Zhuowen could clearly feel that the mental energy pressure on the second floor was much stronger and purer than on the first floor. Moreover, Zhuowen was delighted to discover that other than the mental energy pressure that was constantly pressing down on him, there was also a trace of strange and refreshing energy on the second floor. This trace of strange energy was like a scanning lens. It passed through the surface of Zhuowen's body and seeped into the Niwen Palace between his eyebrows. A refreshing feeling suddenly rose in Zhuowen's mind. It was as if he had suddenly taken a cold shower on an extremely hot summer day. It was extremely refreshing. This energy. Silently feeling the refreshing energy in his mind, Zhuowen squinted his eyes and muttered to himself in pleasant surprise. Hee. This is the most precious benefit of this Spirit Curse Tower. It contains the comprehension of countless arcana masters. This thing can greatly increase your comprehension ability and allow you to break through the shackles in front of you as soon as possible. Xiao Hei's voice sounded in a timely manner. Silently feeling the refreshing energy and the refreshing feeling that seeped into his body, Zhuowen could also clearly feel that his mind's thoughts were much lighter than before. Clearly, this was a benefit brought about by the mental energy. However, this feeling was not very strong. Clearly, the mental energy on the second floor was not very strong. After all, the mental energy on the second floor was only at the level of advanced grade 2 arcana masters. The amount of mental energy it could provide was definitely not much. With my mental energy of advanced grade 3 arcana masters, the amount of mental energy that the mental energy on the second floor can provide is probably too little for me. Zhuowen lowered his head and muttered to himself in thought. The mental energy on the first floor of the Spirit Curse Tower is at the level of advanced grade 2 arcana masters, while the second floor is at the level of advanced grade 2 Arcana Masters. I'm afraid that only the mental energy on the 5th floor will be able to obstruct you to a certain extent. The mental energy on the 5th floor is not weaker than that of an advanced grade 3 Arcana Master. The mental energy on the 5th floor will most likely be of great help to you. Xiao Hei's voice sounded in his mind once again as she analyzed the situation in a clear and logical manner. Millimeter, you're right. However, according to the pattern you've described, wouldn't the mental energy on the 8th floor be at the level of grade 4 Arcana Masters? That level of mental energy is something that even I, as an advanced grade 3 Arcana Master, would find difficult to endure. Suddenly thinking of something, Zhuowen suddenly exclaimed in a low voice. It's just mental energy. It's not like a level 4 Arcana Master has personally descended. I'm afraid the mental energy on the 8th floor isn't that frightening. However, it shouldn't be something that an ordinary grade 3 Arcana Master can endure. However, you have quite a few trump cards on you. Entering the 7th floor shouldn't be a problem. As for the 8th floor, it's a bit of a stretch. Xiao Hei's voice also revealed a trace of helplessness in his mind. Clearly, the difficulty of the Spirit Curse Tower had exceeded her expectations. Chapter 285. Advanced Grade 3-inch Breakthrough to Perfect Grade 3? The further one's mental energy is, the harder it is to break through. Breaking through to Perfect Grade 3 won't be so easy, Zhuowen said helplessly as he narrowed his eyes. Even so, this Spirit Curse Tower is an opportunity for you. After being tempered and baptized by the mental energy pressure here, as well as the endless amount of enlightenment energy gushing out from the tower, you will be able to raise your mental energy for a short period of time. All you need is an opportunity. After all, you are not far from perfect grade. Xiao Hei said casually. Yes. Even so, the enlightenment energy on the 2nd level is too little. If I want to break through, I will need to reach the 5th level of the Spirit Curse Tower. After replying casually, Zhuowen scanned his surroundings. Soon after, he locked onto a flight of stairs in the far left corner. This flight of stairs should be the passageway to the 3rd level. Narrowing his eyes, Zhuowen suddenly stomped his foot. Immediately, the soles of his feet overflowed with electricity. It was rather dazzling in the 2nd level, and a thunderous rumble suddenly sounded out. The other contestants, who were originally concentrating on the 2nd level and silently absorbing the enlightenment energy on this level, were naturally awakened by Zhuowen's rather loud commotion. Their faces revealed looks of anger. However, when they saw that the owner of the noise was Zhuowen, who had performed spectacularly in the 2nd stage, none of them dared to utter a word. They knew that although the youth before them looked ordinary, he possessed powerful initial grade 3 mental energy. At the same time, he also had an earth fire like the 9 heavens thunder blazing flame in his body. In their opinion, Zhuowen's strength and talent were already comparable to Su Yang, Su Qi and Zhu Yi. If not for the fact that Zhuowen was only around 17 or 18 years old, his mental energy level would not be much weaker than the 3 of them. In fact, he might even surpass them. Zhuowen ignored the respectful gazes directed at him from the surroundings. His speed was extremely fast. Like a bolt of lightning, he directly entered the stairs and instantly disappeared from everyone's sight. The area of the 3rd floor was much larger than the 1st and 2nd floors, but the number of people was much smaller. Those who could make it to the 3rd floor were all arcanists above grade 2 perfection. They could be considered the elites among the participants of this arcana ceremony. Zhuowen. After roughly sweeping a glance at the situation on the 3rd level, Zhuowen planned to directly rush up to the 4th level. However, he did not expect that a voice would suddenly call out to him from behind. Subconsciously turning his head, Zhuowen saw a young man wearing a purple robe. The young man had a gentle expression, fair skin, and looked rather confident and handsome. He was the disciple of Master Mystic Spirit, Ouyang Yatao, and also the genius sent by the City Lord's mansion. In fact, Ouyang Yatao was rather unlucky. Originally, with his grade 2 perfection mental energy, he would have performed well in the Arcana ceremony. However, he did not expect that this year's Arcana ceremony would attract the geniuses of the 2 super cities, Anding City and Yeyang City, to participate. The geniuses sent by these two super-cities could be said to be monstrous. They actually had the strength of an advanced grade 3 perfection. With such monstrous geniuses in front of him, even though Ouyang Yatao's strength was not bad, it was obvious that he was rather mediocre in comparison. Looking at Ouyang Yatao, who was sweating profusely and panting behind him, Zhuowen could not help but be taken aback. Immediately, he turned around and walked to Ouyang Yatao's side. The mental energy in his body violently surged out, forming a small barrier between the two of them to prevent the erosion of the mental energy pressure. Ouyang Yatao's expression relaxed as he felt the mountain-like pressure on his body recede like a receding tide. Soon after, he looked at the young man in front of him with a complicated expression and said, "Thank you, Brother Zhuo. I really did not expect Brother Zhuo to be hiding such powerful strength. Back then, I had misjudged you." Zhuowen waved his hand and said indifferently, "It was not my intention to hide my strength. It was that old man Kang Mu who forced me to hide my strength in order to gain a slight advantage in the Arcana ceremony. I just don't know why Brother Ouyang asked me to stop. With Ouyang Yatao's strength, it would be difficult for him to continue to advance to the 4th floor." Zhuowen knew that Ouyang Yatao suddenly stopped him not to ask him to help him enter the 4th floor. This was because Ouyang Yatao's strength was only at complete grade 2. Even if Zhuowen helped him enter the 4th floor, it would be difficult for him to withstand the terrifying mental energy pressure on the 4th floor. Ouyang Yatao's expression was slightly hesitant. He gritted his teeth and said, "Zhuowen, Master Kang Mu is an arcanist belonging to our Broken Rock City's Arcane Guild. As Master Kang Mu's disciple, your participation in the Arcana ceremony is actually representing the arcanists of Broken Rock City. Moreover, I can feel that your strength is definitely stronger than Xuanai. I, Ouyang Yatao, hope that you can represent Broken Rock City to obtain the top 3 in this Arcana ceremony. For this, you will gain the friendship of our city governor's mansion." At this point, Ouyang Yatao suddenly cupped his hands respectfully and said in a rather solemn manner. Zhuowen was startled. He immediately understood Ouyang Yatao's meaning. After all, this Arcana ceremony was held by Broken Rock City. If the top 3 spots of this Arcana ceremony were to be occupied by the Arcanists of Anding City and Yeyang City, Broken Rock City would really lose a lot of face this time. As the manager of Broken Rock City, the prestige of the city governor's mansion would probably decline. As a direct descendant of the city governor's mansion, Ouyang Yatao had obviously considered this point. Don't worry, the reward for this Arcana ceremony is a grade 4 origin array. I have already reserved that item long ago. The corners of Zhuowen's mouth curled slightly as he said with a faint smile. Ouyang Yatao was startled when he heard this. Then, he said bitterly, "Brother Zhuo, although your mental energy has reached the level of initial grade 3, Ju Yi from Yeyang City and the Su siblings from Anding City are all advanced grade 3 arcanist. Among them, Ju Yi and Su Yang have been in the advanced grade 3 Arcana ceremony for a long time. I'm afraid that they have already reached the peak of the advanced grade 3 Arcana ceremony. Only Su Qi has just reached the advanced grade 3 Arcana ceremony not long ago. His realm has yet to completely stabilize. With Brother Zhuo's strength, you should be able to barely defeat Su Qi. As for Ju Yi and Su Yang, it will be a little difficult. Brother Zhuo, you should act according to your ability. As long as you obtain the 3rd place, you will be able to more or less restore the prestige of Broken Rock City. Brother Ouyang. This time, there are not only 3 advanced grade 3 arcanists, but 4. Zhuowen suddenly turned his head and smiled as he stared at Ouyang Yatao in front of him. 4. Brother Zhuo, don't joke around. There are clearly only 3. Su Yang and Su Qi from Anding City and Ju Yi from Yeyang City. There are only 3 in total. How can there be 4? Ouyang Yatao suddenly laughed dryly with a strange expression on his face. Because the 4th person is me, Zhuowen. A wide smile suddenly bloomed on Zhuowen's face. At the same time, a wave of mental energy suddenly surged out from his body like a tidal wave. Boom! The powerful mental energy swept out in all directions like a monstrous wave. The power almost froze the air on the 3rd floor. Even the mental energy pressure that covered the entire third floor retreated like an obedient puppy after Zhuowen fully unleashed his advanced grade 3 mental energy. The mental energy pressure on the entire third floor retreated under the effect of Zhuowen's mental energy. In an instant, the seemingly solid pressure on the third floor disappeared without a trace. Hey! Why did the surrounding mental energy pressure disappear? And this mental energy that suddenly appeared, what is it? Damn, this mental energy is so powerful. It even dispelled the mental energy pressure on the third floor. I'm afraid this mental energy has already reached the advanced grade 3 arcanist level. Advanced grade 3 arcanist level? Only Su Yang, Ju Yi, and Su Qi are advanced grade 3 arcanists in this arcana ceremony. However, I've seen these 3 people enter the higher levels of the spiritual curse tower. It's unlikely that they're on the third floor. The few arcanists who were seated on the third floor all opened their eyes at the same time as the mental power erupted. Their eyes were filled with confusion and shock, and the place immediately fell into a hubbub. At the same time, these people gathered their gazes on the source of the powerful mental energy. When they saw the slender figure of the young man, the scene became rather strange and quiet for a moment. This silence only lasted for a moment before it was filled with voices of disbelief. Everyone's eyes revealed a trace of surprise and disbelief because the owner of the mental energy was a young man of 17 or 18 years old. This young man was Zhuowen, who was in the limelight in the second stage. It's actually Zhuowen. Wasn't he only at the initial grade 3 arcanist level in the second stage? How did his mental energy improve in the blink of an eye and reach the advanced grade 3 arcanist level? Looks like we've underestimated Zhuowen. I'm afraid he's very likely to be the dark horse of this arcana ceremony this time. He's younger than Su Yang, but his strength isn't any weaker than the former. Moreover, his body has a powerful earthly fire like the 9 heavens thunder inferno. When the surrounding exclamations and noises exploded in an instant, Ouyang Yatao, who was standing in front of Zhuowen, was completely stunned. His pupils shrank as he stared blankly at the young man in front of him and the powerful tide-like mental energy that almost flooded the entire third floor. Zhuowen, you're actually an advanced grade 3 arcanist. Could it be that you didn't use your full strength in the second stage? Ouyang Yatao suddenly felt that his throat was a little dry. In the end, he smiled bitterly and said, "Now you know why I'm confident that I'll be the champion of this arcana ceremony, right? So you can rest assured that the champion of this arcana ceremony will never fall into the hands of Anding City or Yiyang City." Patting Ouyang Yatao's shoulder, Zhuowen smiled slightly. The mental energy in his body was immediately withdrawn into his Niwen Palace. After that, he greeted Ouyang Yatao and directly rushed toward the stairs leading to the 4th floor. Chapter 286. The 4th level. On the 4th level of the Spirit Curse Tower, heavy footsteps slowly drifted out like the panting of an old bull. The area of the 4th level was extremely large. However, there were only 6 figures in this spacious area. They were slowly walking with heavy footsteps towards the center of the 4th level. There was a staircase that looked like a tombstone standing there. Among the 6 figures, the one closest to the steps was a young man with an indifferent expression and a trace of arrogance between his brows. This person was Su Yang from An City. At this moment, Su Yang had his hands behind his back as he slowly walked towards the center of the steps as if he was taking a stroll. There was not a trace of fatigue on his face. Not far behind Su Yang was Ju Yi from Yiyang City. Ju Yi's expression was rather relaxed as he followed closely behind Su Yang. Behind them were Su Qi and Xuanai. Su Qi's pretty face did not seem to be burdened, but Xuanai was drenched in sweat. Her pretty face was pale and her footsteps seemed rather heavy. The 2 people not far behind the 2 girls were the other 2 disciples sent by Yiyang City. They should be Ju Yi's junior brothers and their strength was at the initial stage of grade 3. Their complexions were even worse than Xuanai's. Clearly, their strength was weaker than Xuanai's. Although the 2 of them and Xuanai's mental energy were both at the initial stage of grade 3, Xuanai's mental energy had already reached the peak of the initial stage of grade 3. She was only half a step away from reaching the advanced stage of grade 3. Naturally, she was much stronger than the 2 people sent by Yiyang City. I say, Miss Xuanai, you don't have to struggle anymore. The mental energy pressure on the 4th level of the Spirit Curse Tower is not weaker than that of an initial stage of Grade 3 Arcana Master. With your strength, it will be difficult for you to walk on this level. I'm afraid it will be very difficult for you to pass the 4th level. Su Qi cast a sidelong glance at the sweaty figure behind her. Her red lips curled up as she laughed mockingly. Xuanai bit her lower lip and coldly glanced at Su Qi. Then, she ignored her and continued to walk forward step by step. Her expression was focused and persistent. Don't you know your own limits? So what if you pass the 4th level? With your initial 3rd rank strength, do you think you can reach the 8th level? Su Qi coldly snorted when she saw that Xue ignored her. Under the powerful mental pressure of the 4th floor, Xuanai's footsteps became even heavier, but she still gritted her teeth and continued forward. It's not the last moment yet. Are you so sure that your Ding City will win the championship of this Arcana ceremony? As she walked with heavy steps, Xuanai glanced coldly at Su Qi and said indifferently, "Oh, don't tell me you're still harboring the thought of getting lucky. With the current strength of your Broken Rock City, do you think there is anyone who can stand shoulder to shoulder with our Ding City? Even you, the number 1 disciple of Broken Rock City, are only at the advanced 3rd grade. You can't even compare to me, let alone my big brother." The sarcasm on Su Qi's pretty face intensified as her tone became heavier. Do you really think that your brother Su Yang is invincible? In the 2nd round, the crystals he refined were not as good as Zhuowen's. Moreover, Zhuowen is much younger than your brother. Therefore, in terms of talent, your brother is not as good as Zhuowen. If Zhuowen was the same age as your brother, his strength would have surpassed your brother long ago. Xuanai's heart was filled with anger at Su Qi's unbridled ridicule and could not help but retort. Su Qi's expression changed. Xuanai was right. For Su Yang, who was the strongest among everyone, the quality of the broken seal crystal refined in the 2nd round was actually worse than Zhuowen, who was only at the initial 3rd grade. This matter was naturally fresh in her memory. What a sharp-tongued girl. That Zhuowen's talent is indeed not bad, but his strength is only at the initial 3rd grade after all. His strength is not much higher than yours. What do you think that guy can do in this spiritual spell tower? I'm afraid he can only watch us climb up the tower step by step. Su Qi sneered. Buzz. At this moment, Su Yang, who was at the front, had already reached the center step of the 4th floor. Su Yang turned his head slightly and looked around. When he did not find Zhuowen's figure, he sneered, with that guy's strength, it should be more than enough to ascend to the 4th floor. However, if he still hasn't come, I'm afraid he won't dare to come. Brother Su, could it be that you're waiting for Zhuowen? Zhu Yi, who was behind him, also caught up. When he saw Su Yang, who was in front, looking behind him as if he was looking for something, he asked with a faint smile. Hee. That kid's attitude outside the spiritual spell tower was rather arrogant. I originally wanted to teach that brat a lesson on the 4th floor, but I didn't expect that he still hasn't come up. I'm afraid he doesn't dare to come up. However, since he doesn't dare to come up, forget it. To me, that Zhuowen is just a clown. Su Yang placed his hands behind his back, his handsome face filled with arrogance. That kid's performance in the previous 2 rounds was rather dazzling. Even in the 2nd round, he overshadowed you, brother Su Yang. You're just angry and want to teach that Zhuowen a lesson. Zhu Yi glanced at Su Yang and sneered. Brother Zhu Yi, you're really talkative today. Since that Zhuowen still doesn't dare to come up, I don't need to waste any more time here. In this Arcana ceremony, you're the only troublesome opponent. As long as I can surpass you, the champion of this Arcana ceremony will be mine. After taking a deep look at Zhu Yi, Su Yang directly took a step forward and stepped onto the stairs. Then, with a few clean steps, he reached the top and disappeared from everyone's sight. Looking at Su Yang's disappearing figure, Zhu Yi narrowed his eyes. There was a trace of battle intent in the depths of his eyes. With a hearty laugh, he also directly entered the 5th floor. Number 1 genius of Broken Rock City, I won't accompany you any longer. You can slowly persevere on the 4th floor. Seeing that both Su Yang and Zhu Yi had entered the 5th floor, Su Qi was not to be outdone. He glanced at Xuan indifferently and increased his speed. Not long after, Su Qi also arrived in front of the stairs. Without the slightest reluctance, Su Qi directly raised her leg and directly braved the intense mental energy pressure on the stairs. She bravely stepped up, and soon, her beautiful figure disappeared at the entrance of the stairs to the 4th level. Looking at the 3 people who had disappeared on the stairs, Xuan bit her lower lip with her pearly white teeth. Her pretty face was filled with unwillingness. She was very unwilling. She was unwilling to accept that her strength was so weak. She was unwilling to accept that the champion of this arcana ceremony was snatched by another city. She was unwilling to accept that none of the top 3 arcanists from Broken Rock City had a spot. The unwillingness in her heart continuously brewed and finally turned into grievance. Xuan's cold and beautiful eyes were now filled with a delicate expression. The mist in her eyes also became denser and denser, almost dripping down. It's not time to give up yet. I have to at least pass through the 4th floor and reach the 5th floor. Master has placed too much hope on me. I can't let him down. Gently wiping her slightly red eyes, a trace of determination once again burst forth from Xuan's eyes. Thud, thud, thud. Step by step, Xuan pouted and gritted her teeth. She hardened her heart and finally reached the top of the stairs. There were a total of 10 stairs to the 5th floor. The closer one was to the 5th floor, the stronger the mental energy pressure. Feeling the powerful mental energy pressure transmitted from the stairs, Xuan's pretty face once again paled. Her delicate body continuously bent her knees under the pressure, almost kneeling on the ground. I must go up. Her pretty face was filled with stubbornness. Finally, Xuan took a step forward. With a buzzing sound, the countless mental energy pressure on the stairs was like an explosion in the air as it ruthlessly pressed towards Xuan. The powerful force caused Xuan's extended foot to stop in mid-air. Step over. Xuan's eyes shrunk. The mental energy in her Niwen palace poured out without any regard for her life. She actually forcefully suppressed the mental energy pressure on the first step. Thud, thud, thud. As though she had fallen into a swamp, Xuan took one step at a time along the stairs with great difficulty. She continued to climb upwards. Her delicate body forcefully endured the enormous mental energy pressure on the stairs that grew stronger and stronger. In the end, Xuan directly climbed up to the 9th step. As long as she passed through the 10th step, she would be able to directly enter the 5th floor. You must succeed. Clenching her teeth, Xuan suddenly took a step forward and directly walked towards the 10th step. Buzz. An intense buzzing sound suddenly sounded. Following which, a tornado-like mental energy pressure swept over from all directions. It was like countless tidal waves that directly surged towards Xuan one after another. Ugh! The powerful mental energy pressure was like a heavy hammer as it ruthlessly struck Xuan's chest, causing her to directly spit out a mouthful of blood. At the same time, her body was like a rock that was sent flying as it directly flew backwards. I can't step over. Looks like our Broken Rock City really has no hope for this arcane ceremony. In mid-air, the corners of Xuan's mouth revealed a bitter smile as she muttered to herself. Then, she slowly closed her eyes. You haven't lost yet. Suddenly, a clear voice slowly sounded in the 4th level. After which, a figure swiftly rushed forward. With a gentle shake of his right hand, a powerful mental energy directly surged out. It actually transformed into a huge palm and directly caught Xuan, who was flying backwards, in the palm of his hand. Xuan only felt a gentle power gently acting on her back. Soon after, she discovered that her body that was flying backwards had stopped at this moment. After stabilizing her body, Xuan suddenly turned her head and looked over. She saw a slender figure slowly walking over from the entrance of the 4th floor with a calm expression. At the same time, an extremely powerful mental energy surrounded this figure. It was like countless hurricanes were surrounding him. The mental energy pressure from the 4th floor was unable to seep in. Chapter 287. The 5th floor. Zhuoan, you're actually an advanced grade 3 arcana master? You've been hiding your strength all this time? Xuan's mouth was slightly agape as she involuntarily exclaimed. You can say that. Leave the rest to me. With your current strength, entering the 5th floor is a little too difficult. Zhuowen glanced at Xuanai as he smiled faintly. Looking at the calm young man in front of her, Xuanai's pretty face revealed a bitter smile. Looks like she really misjudged him back then. The young man in front of her, whom she did not take seriously at the beginning, actually possessed mental energy that surpassed hers. This was something she did not expect. Gritting her teeth, Xuanai nodded and said, "Yes, you have to be careful. Su Yang, Su Qi, and Ju Yi are not easy to deal with. Also, Broken Rock City is really relying on you this time. I hope you don't lose. Don't worry. I came to participate in the Arcana ceremony this time for the Grade 4 Yuan array. Even if you don't say it, I won't lose." Narrowing his eyes, Zhuowen's lips curled into an arc. Following which, he stomped his foot and directly walked towards the stairs. With Zhuowen's advanced Grade 3 mental energy, the pressure of the 4th floor did not affect him at all. Hence, Zhuowen took a few steps and directly crossed the 10th step to enter the 5th floor. Staring at the figure that instantly disappeared on the stairs, Xuanai's eyes were filled with a complicated expression. In the end, she sighed softly and muttered to herself, "This time, it's all up to you, Zhuowen." Outside the arena, everyone in the VIP seats cast their gazes towards the Soul Spell Tower in the center of the training grounds. At this moment, the surface of the Soul Spell Tower was densely packed with dazzling light dots, as if they were stars in the night sky, constantly flickering. If one took a closer look, they would see similar dots of light on every floor of the Curse's tower. These dots of light represented the number of people in the tower. There were 60 Arcana Masters who had entered the Curse's tower, so these dots of light added up to 60 people. The 2nd floor had the highest number of dots, accounting for almost 80% of the total number of dots. Clearly, most of the Arcanists were stuck on the 2nd floor, while the 3rd and 4th floors had even fewer. The 4th floor had 6 dots of light. Ouyang Yuntu stared at the specks of light above the Soul Curse Tower and whispered with a smile, "These little fellows are quite fast. 6 of them have already reached the 4th floor." As soon as Ouyang Yuntu finished speaking, 3 dots of light on the 4th floor of the Spirit Curse Tower disappeared. Then, 3 dots of light appeared on the 5th floor. Clearly, 3 people had entered the 5th floor. Ouyang Yuntu frowned as he muttered to himself, "They're really fast. It's only been a short while, but 3 people have already entered the 5th level. Those 3 specks of light should be Yeong City's Ju Yi and An City's Su siblings. Only these 3 advanced rank 3 Arcana Masters are able to pass through the 4th floor so easily." Master Ku Ya frowned slightly and said in a deep voice, "I wonder if Xuanai and Zhuowen will be able to successfully reach the 5th floor. The mental pressure on the 4th floor is still somewhat threatening to an initial rank 3 Arcana Master." Ouyang Yuntu frowned slightly and said with some worry. As for Qiu Chou, he sat in his seat without saying a word. His face was as calm as water, but his gaze was fixed on the Soul Curse Tower in the distance. He believed that Zhuowen wasn't simple, which was why he had so easily agreed to Master Huoyun's bet. "Zhuowen, you better buck up. This time, this old man's bet is a little too big." Qiu Chou's eyes narrowed as he muttered to himself in an almost inaudible voice. When Master Huoyun, who was sitting in the back row, saw the 3 specks of light on the 5th floor, the corners of his mouth curved into a proud smile. He muttered in a low voice, "This Qiu Chou is really too confident. He clearly knows that our An City has 2 advanced rank 3 Arcana Masters participating this time, yet he dares to make a bet with me. Is he relying on Zhuowen, who is only at the initial rank 3 Arcana Masters? The Arcana Masters of Broken Rock City are nothing to be afraid of. You can only blame Qiu Chou for trusting Zhuowen too much. Think about it, that kid is only at the initial rank 3 Arcana Master. No matter how heaven-defying he is, it's not very likely that he can defeat an advanced rank 3 Arcana Master." Master Hanyun, who was beside Master Huoyun, sneered. As soon as Master Hanyun's words left his mouth, an uproar arose in the VIP seats. Another person has entered the 5th floor. This uproar caused Master Hanyun and Master Huoyun to turn their heads. Their gazes converged on the Soul Curse Tower. When they saw that there were 4 specks of light on the 5th floor, their pupils abruptly shrank. "There's actually someone who can enter the 5th floor. Who is this person? Could it be Zhuowen? Master Hanyun frowned and said with some surprise. Master Huayun's expression was rather unsightly. He didn't expect that there would be someone else who had the strength to enter the 5th floor besides Su Yang, Zhu Yi, and Su Qi. Logically speaking, the mental pressure on the 5th floor shouldn't be weaker than that of an advanced rank 3 Arcana Master. Zhuowen and Xuanai were merely at the initial rank 3 Arcana Masters. It was rather difficult to enter the 5th floor with the mental strength of an initial rank 3 Arcana Master. However, there was someone who had entered the 5th floor. Hey! Another person has entered the 5th floor. If this person isn't Xuanai, then it's Zhuowen. Ouyang Yuntu also noticed that there was an additional speck of light on the 5th floor of the Soul Curse Tower. His eyes flashed as he laughed loudly. It shouldn't be Xuanai. With Xuanai's mental strength, it'll be very difficult for her to reach the 5th floor. This person should be Zhuowen. Master Ku Ya muttered to himself. Xuanai was his personal disciple, and Master Ku Ya was well aware of her capabilities. I knew that Zhuowen was extraordinary. Being able to enter the 5th floor already means that this kid's mental strength is much stronger than an ordinary initial rank 3 Arcana Master. Qiu Chou, who was originally calm, suddenly laughed out loud. The mental pressure on the 5th floor of the Soul Curse Tower was extremely strong. Even the surrounding air seemed to have solidified. After reaching the 5th floor, Su Yang and the other two were no longer as relaxed as they were on the 4th floor. Among them, Su Yang and Zhu Yi frowned slightly. However, they still walked forward with their heads held high. However, their speed was much slower, as if they were taking a stroll. As for Su Qi, who was slightly weaker, her speed was much slower than the other two. Although she could still walk, it was rather strenuous for her. It was obvious that the pressure on the 5th floor was a clear hindrance to Su Qi. Little sister, how do you feel? Su Yang also noticed Su Qi's condition. He stopped slightly and asked with a frown. It's all right. Big brother, you go first. I can still hold on. If you can become the champion of the Arcana ceremony this time, you will be able to obtain the rank 4 Yuan array. That thing is incomparably important to you. Su Qi's pretty face was slightly pale, but she still smiled at Su Yang. Brother and sister are really close. However, that rank 4 Yuan array does not necessarily belong to your brother. It should belong to me, Zhu Yi. Zhu Yi slowly walked forward and coldly smiled. Su Yang nodded at Su Qi. Then, he coldly glanced at Zhu Yi and indifferently said, Brother Zhu Yi, are you really so confident that you can become the champion this time? However, I can regretfully tell you that you have no chance at all. No chance at all? Brother Su, your words are too full of yourself. There is not much difference between our strengths. How can I not have a chance? Zhu Yi sneered. However, the smile on Zhu Yi's face quickly froze. This was because an extremely powerful mental strength suddenly surged out from Su Yang's body. This mental strength far surpassed Zhu Yi's own. This mental strength. What the hell, Su Yang, you actually made a breakthrough. After regaining his senses, Zhu Yi's cheeks flushed red as he could not help but exclaim. I was lucky enough to make a breakthrough a month ago. Brother Zhu Yi, do you think that with your rank 3 advanced mental strength, you have the qualifications to compete with me for the rank 4 Yuan array? Su Yang disdainfully glanced at Zhu Yi. Then, he took large strides and directly rushed towards the stairs in the corner. His perfect 3rd grade mental strength surged out and immediately suppressed the mental strength pressure on the stairs. Then, Su Yang unceremoniously left the 5th floor and entered the 6th floor. Damn it! Damn it! Su Yang actually made a breakthrough. Zhu Yi was stunned for half a second. Then, he angrily stomped his foot and fiercely cursed. Su Qi, who was behind Zhu Yi, coldly smiled and said rather mockingly, I've already said that the champion of this arcane ceremony will definitely be my big brother, Su Yang. You have no chance at all. Looking at the mocking smile on Su Qi's pretty face, Zhu Yi's expression became even uglier. At the same time, he sighed in his heart. He knew that since Su Yang's mental strength had already advanced to the level of a perfect 3rd grade, there was no doubt that he would be the champion of this arcane ceremony. Your City Arcane Guild has really hidden your strength well. In the past, You've always been quiet. I didn't expect you to have 2 disciples at the level of a perfect 3rd grade. Moreover, Su Yang has even reached the level of a perfect 3rd grade. But forget it. Against Su Yang, who is at the level of a perfect 3rd grade, I have no chance of winning at all. I'll just stay on this floor and absorb the power of comprehension inside. Ju Yi sighed. After knowing that he had no chance of winning, Ju Yi appeared somewhat dejected. Then, he directly sat cross-legged on the ground and simply began to cultivate. Buzz. At this moment, a fluctuation suddenly transmitted from the entrance of the 5th floor. This fluctuation was like a ripple in the water, spreading in all directions and immediately attracted the attention of Ju Yi and Su Qi. This fluctuation? Could it be that someone else has entered the 5th floor? Su Qi was the first to react. Then, she realized something and suddenly looked toward the entrance. Ju Yi was obviously attracted by this fluctuation. He frowned slightly, twisted his neck, and cast his gaze toward the entrance of the 5th floor. A slender figure slowly stepped out from the entrance. His body was tightly wrapped by a hurricane-like mental strength. As soon as this figure appeared at the entrance, he looked around and began to size up the surrounding environment. Zhuowen? How is that possible? He's just a 3rd grade lower stage arcanist. How did he enter the 5th floor? After seeing the figure clearly, Su Qi's beautiful eyes shrank and she could not help but exclaim. No, what a powerful mental strength. This mental strength has already reached the level of a 3rd grade upper stage. This Zhuowen is actually a 3rd grade upper stage arcanist. Ju Yi's eyes were sharp. At a glance, he sensed the powerful mental strength on Zhuowen's body. Chapter 288. Powerful. The moment he entered the 5th level, Zhuowen felt a mental energy pressure that was several times stronger than the one on the 4th level. It was like a tidal wave as it poured towards him, causing Zhuowen to involuntarily bend his knees. The mental energy pressure on the 5th level is actually so strong. However, the comprehension power on the 5th level is much stronger than the previous few levels. After adapting to the surrounding mental energy pressure, Zhuowen slowly stood up and surveyed his surroundings. He saw Su Qi and Ju Yi, who were nearby, looking at him in astonishment. Ignoring the astonished faces of Su Qi and Ju Yi, Zhuowen only silently sensed the slowly seeping comprehension power around him. At the same time, he began to rapidly circulate the 10,000 expansion scripture. He could feel that the mental energy in his Niwen palace was growing at a rather frightening rate under the infiltration of this comprehension power. Moreover, due to his cultivation of the 10,000 expansion scripture, Zhuowen had already split the mental energy in his Niwen palace into 81 strands. These 81 strands of mental energy were all at the peak of the advanced 3rd grade. In other words, Zhuowen's mental energy was so enormous that it was comparable to the mental energy of 81 arcana masters at the peak of the advanced 3rd grade. With such enormous mental energy, I'm afraid that even a perfect 3rd grade arcana master cannot compare to it. The 10,000 expansion scripture is indeed a top-secret skill even in the ancient times. Such an abnormal effect is enough to allow an arcana master who cultivates this secret skill to casually kill an enemy of a higher level. Zhuowen's eyes flickered as he quietly muttered to himself. After all, this 10,000 expansion scripture was extremely famous in the ancient times. Back then, the 10,000 expansion sect was an extremely large monster in the entire continent. The reason why the 10,000 expansion sect was so prosperous was because of this 10,000 expansion scripture. Xiao Hei's voice slowly rang out in his mind. Zhuowen nodded slightly. After practicing the myriad evolution scripture, Zhuowen naturally knew how powerful it was. To put it bluntly, although Zhuowen was only at level 3 advanced realm, even Su Yang might not necessarily be a match for him now. The mental energy pressure of the 5th level has already reached the level of advanced 3rd grade. I only need to release 5 streams of mental energy and I should be able to withstand it. Squinting his eyes, Zhuowen's mind moved. 5 rank 3 advanced mental powers suddenly poured out and turned into 5 mental barriers around his body. As soon as the 5 mental barriers were formed, Ju Yi and Su Qi, who were standing nearby, narrowed their eyes. They looked at the 5 mental barriers around Zhuowen's body in disbelief. How is that possible? How did Zhuowen do it? He can actually release 5 strands of mental strength, and the strength of his mental strength is actually at the level of level 3 advanced stage. Su Qi's cherry lips parted slightly. She simply could not understand what was happening to Zhuowen. How could a person possess 5 streams of mental energy? Zhu Yi's face was also filled with indescribable astonishment. He also felt that Zhuowen's mental energy was inconceivable. Thud thud thud. Ignoring Zhu Yi and Su Qi, who were still in shock, Zhuowen took a step forward and directly walked towards the stairs in the corner. His steps were vigorous and calm, and there was no trace of burden on his face. This guy wants to directly go to the 6th level. Su Qi's long, shapely eyebrows slightly furrowed. Soon after, she coldly said to Zhuowen's figure, "Stop." When he heard this, Zhuowen's footsteps paused slightly. Soon after, he continued to walk forward, completely ignoring Su Qi's call. When she saw Zhuowen's indifferent attitude, Su Qi stomped her foot. Her pretty face was incomparably red with anger as she shouted, "Are you deaf? I'm telling you to stop." As she spoke, the mental energy in Su Qi's body suddenly erupted, directly transforming into an invisible sharp arrow. With a buzzing sound, the sharp arrow formed from mental energy pierced through countless spatial ripples and suddenly swept towards Zhuowen's back. Along the way, countless air explosions sounded as if they were exploding. Clang! The sharp mental energy arrow, which seemed to have the power to tear through the air, finally sank into Zhuowen's back. However, when it was about 10 inches away, the mental energy barrier on the surface of Zhuowen's body suddenly lit up. Soon after, a clear and melodious sound of metal clashing abruptly filled the air. The sharp mental energy arrow actually directly froze and stopped 10 inches away from Zhuowen's back. Looking at the figure who had blocked her mental energy arrow without moving at all, Su Qi was suddenly stunned. She did not expect the young man in front of her to be so powerful that he could easily block the mental energy arrow she had released. What made her even more aggrieved was that Zhuowen did not move at all. He only quietly walked forward and was actually able to block her attack. This made the arrogant Su Qi somewhat incredulous. How can this guy be so strong? Su Qi subconsciously said this sentence. Thud. At this moment, the originally advancing figure suddenly stopped and turned around. A pair of eyes filled with coldness stared coldly at Su Qi behind him. "If you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish now." At this moment, Zhuowen's eyes were filled with killing intent. Originally, he did not want to pay attention to Su Qi. After all, his goal was the earth fire in Su Yang's body. There was no need to waste time on Su Qi. However, Su Qi's unruly words and methods of attacking at the slightest disagreement had thoroughly angered Zhuowen. Boom! With that, Zhuowen's legs bounced as if there were springs on his feet. With a dazzling speed, he suddenly rushed towards Su Qi. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of the stunned Su Qi. His 5 fingers clenched into a fist as powerful mental energy continuously wrapped around his arms. Then, he unceremoniously punched towards Su Qi's abdomen. Su Qi was also shocked by Zhuowen's sudden attack. However, her reaction was fast enough. With a thought, she gathered the vigorous mental energy in her Niwen palace in front of her, forming an invisible mental energy wall in front of her. "Break for me." With a cold snort, Zhuowen suddenly punched out. That powerful force seemed to have squeezed the surrounding air until it exploded. Then, it ruthlessly slammed into the mental energy wall in front of him. Boom! 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 For a moment, at the intersection of the fist and the mental energy wall, countless air pressure accompanied by a terrifying mental energy pressure almost turned into a spiral-shaped cyclone that spread out at the intersection. Then, there was a violent explosion, as if countless bombs had exploded at the same time. Crack! A crisp sound suddenly rang out. Then, in the blink of an eye, the surface of the seemingly thick mental energy wall was covered with spiderweb-like cracks. Then, the cracks began to spread in all directions, and finally, with a loud bang, it shattered into countless pieces. Looking at the mental energy wall that had almost shattered into powder, Su Qi's pretty face suddenly turned deathly pale. For a moment, she was stunned on the spot. She could only watch as the fragments of the mental energy wall slowly drifted away in front of her eyes. Then, a thick and powerful arm suddenly swept over as if it had broken through the air and fiercely grabbed her jade-like neck. His right hand suddenly grabbed Su Qi's jade-like neck and gently lifted her up. Zhuowen's eyes were full of ruthlessness as he coldly said, "Do you really think that I don't dare to kill you?" Su Qi was already scared silly. Ever since she was young, she had never felt that death was so close to her. She could clearly feel the chilling killing intent in the eyes of the young man in front of her. She did not doubt that if given the chance, the young man in front of her would definitely kill her without mercy. Brother Zhuo, Su Qi is a genius of Settlement City. If you kill her, I'm afraid that it will cause a war between Settlement City and Broken Rock City. You should carefully consider the consequences. By the side, Zhu Yi was also stunned by Zhuo Wen's sudden attack. However, he quickly regained his senses and frowned as he spoke. "Who do you think you are? Do you have the right to lecture me?" Zhuowen coldly said as he glanced at Zhu Yi. Zhu Yi's expression could not help but turn sluggish when he heard this. He did not expect Zhuowen to not give him any face. After all, he was the #1 genius of Yeyang City's arcane guild and was a highly respected arcanist in Yeyang City. "I'm already giving you face by calling you Brother Zhuo. Do you really think that you're invincible?" Zhu Yi's expression was gloomy as he coldly said, "Noisy fellow, die." With a wave of his hand impatiently, the 5 mental barriers surrounding Zhuowen's body suddenly split apart and transformed into 5 giant mental palms that ruthlessly pressed down on Zhu Yi. Zhu Yi's expression changed drastically. He hurriedly activated the mental energy in his body and formed a mental barrier in front of him to block Zhuowen's mental palms. Boom, boom, boom. An earth-shattering sound suddenly exploded throughout the entire 5th floor. The 5 giant mental palms in front of Zhu Yi carried a monstrous gravity as they ruthlessly smashed against the mental barrier in front of him. The loud sound created was almost as loud as a mountain falling. Fart. The enormous pressure almost caused Zhu Yi to vomit blood. At this moment, Zhu Yi's face was filled with horror and regret. Only now did he understand how terrifying Zhuowen was. Crack. After another round of violent bombardment, a crack gradually appeared on the mental barrier in front of Zhu Yi. Zhu Yi immediately turned pale with fright and hurriedly shouted, "Brother Zhuo, wait. I don't care about the conflict between you and Su Qi. I don't care anymore. Don't care. It's too late now." Zhuowen's face was filled with ruthlessness. His right hand suddenly pressed down. The 5 giant mental palms in the air were like 5 mountains that pressed down with a rumble. Bang! A loud shattering sound like glass suddenly rang out. Then, the mental barrier in front of Zhu Yi suddenly shattered inch by inch, turning into countless transparent fragments. Fart. Chapter 289. The Pursuit Bang. The loud sound of a heavy object falling to the ground suddenly rang out. Zhu Yi fell heavily to the ground, almost smashing the ground made purely of mental energy into pieces. He then rolled over a dozen times before coming to a stop, lying on his back not far away, his aura weak. Looking at Zhu Yi lying on the ground like a dead dog, Su Qi, who was being held in Zhuowen's hand, widened her beautiful eyes, a deep fear emerging in the depths of her eyes. Zhu Yi's mental energy had reached the peak of the 3rd grade, and his strength was much stronger than hers. She did not expect him to be so easily dealt with by this young man in front of her. Su Qi finally understood how terrifying this young man was. "Don't kill me. I'm willing to give you everything in my Chenkuan bag in exchange. Please don't kill me." Feeling the increasing force on her neck, Su Qi finally could not help but cry out in fear. "Oh!" Zhuowen was startled, and then continued, "After killing you, your Chenkuan bag will naturally be mine. Do you think I need to let you go? Our Chenkuan bag is different from ordinary people's. On the surface, there is a restriction personally set up by my master, Master Huayun. No one can undo this restriction except me," Su Qi said in a trembling voice. "Oh, there's such a thing." Frowning slightly, Zhuowen reached out and took the Chenkuan bag from Su Qi's waist. Sure enough, he found that there was a layer of invisible restriction on the surface of the Chenkuan bag. He could feel that this restriction was very strong, and even he would find it difficult to break it. Tossing the Chenkuan bag in his hand, Zhuowen said rather mockingly, "Even the Chenkuan bag has a restriction personally set up by a 4th grade arcana master. I'm afraid there's something different inside, right? Tell me, if you can satisfy me, I'll let you go." Looking at the indifferent young man in front of her, Su Qi could not help but gulp. She said in a trembling voice, "The Chenkuan bag contains an inherited secret spirit skill of our settlement city's Arcana Guild. You should know the value of this inherited secret spirit skill. That thing should be enough to exchange for my life." Zhuowen's expression froze when he heard this. He had naturally heard of secret spirit techniques that were passed down through the generations. Secret spirit techniques were extremely precious to begin with. Many arcana masters might not even be able to obtain a secret spirit technique in their entire lives. If they wanted to obtain a secret spirit technique, they would have to rely on a large organization. Because most of the secret spirit skills were monopolized and owned by the major forces, ordinary secret spirit skills were quite common. For example, the secret spirit skill Golden Light Sword that Zhuowen had obtained from Old Man Heixian was an ordinary secret spirit skill with mediocre power. Since martial arts were divided into different grades, then secret spirit skills were naturally divided into different grades. As far as Zhuowen knew, secret spirit skills were roughly divided into normal, inherited, legendary, and epic. Moreover, each grade was divided into low, middle, and high. Strictly speaking, Old Man Heixian's Golden Light Sword could only be considered an ordinary middle-rank secret spirit skill. The Golden Light Sword was somewhat useful to Zhuowen back then, but as Zhuowen grew stronger, the Golden Light Sword was no longer of any use to Zhuowen. Zhuowen did not expect that Su Qi's Chenkuan bag would actually contain an inherited level secret spirit skill. This surprised Zhuowen, but at the same time, there was a trace of joy in his heart. If he could obtain an inherited level secret spirit skill, Zhuowen's strength would probably reach another level. If it's really an inherited level secret spirit skill, I won't kill you. Zhuowen's eyes flashed as he put down Su Qi and handed her the Chenkuan bag. Su Qi bit her lower lip with her pearly white teeth and sighed slightly. She knew that she had no other choice now. If she did not compromise, only death would await her. Thinking of this, Su Qi formed a seal with both hands. Then, she bit her thumb with her silver teeth, and cherry-red blood dripped into the Chenkuan bag. Then, she struck the seal in her hand into the blood. Then, with a buzzing sound, the restriction on the surface of the Chenkuan bag suddenly broke like a tide. "Here." Su Qi gritted her teeth and threw the Chenkuan bag to Zhuowen. After receiving the Chenkuan bag, Zhuowen immediately used his mental energy to scan the inside. He actually found quite a number of 3rd grade origin crystals and a 3rd grade origin array. This surprised Zhuowen. 3rd grade origin crystals were priceless. Su Qi actually had so many of them in her Chenkuan bag. It seemed that she was quite valuable. However, what caused Zhuowen to be pleasantly surprised was one of the grade 3 origin arrays. A grade 3 origin array was much more valuable than a grade 3 origin crystal. If it was placed in an auction house, it would probably be able to be sold for several tens of thousands of Emperor Yuan pills. Shifting his gaze away from the 3rd grade origin crystals, Zhuowen noticed an unremarkable jade strip in a corner. With a thought, Zhuowen took the jade strip in his hand. He closed his eyes and directly sent his mental energy into the jade strip. Not long after, Zhuowen opened his eyes. There was a trace of fervent joy in his eyes. The jade strip indeed recorded an inherited level secret spirit skill called the Creation of Life Array. It used powerful mental energy to weave a formation along a fixed path. This formation could be used both offensively and defensively. It was rather useful. It is indeed an inherited level secret spirit skill. Zhuowen laughed in a carefree manner as the corners of his mouth revealed a slight smile. When Su Qi saw Zhuowen's joyful expression, she cautiously sized up Zhuowen and cautiously said, "Then you can let me go. You can rest assured. Although I, Zhuowen, am not a good person, I at least know how to keep my word. Since you have already paid the inherited level secret spirit skill, I will naturally not kill you." Zhuowen indifferently glanced at Su Qi, who was lying limply on the ground. He directly took Su Qi's tranquil bag and directly walked towards the stairs. However, when he passed by Zhu Yi, who was like a dead dog, Zhuowen did not stand on ceremony and kept the latter's tranquil bag. At the same time, he gave Zhu Yi a kick, causing Zhu Yi's eyes to roll wildly and he nearly foamed at the mouth. When he arrived in front of the stairs, Zhuowen's mind moved. The 5 streams of mental energy once again transformed into a tortoiseshell-like mental energy barrier around Zhuowen, completely covering him. Then, he suddenly took a step forward and directly disappeared from the stairs to the 5th floor. Su Qi wiped the cold sweat off her forehead. Her beautiful eyes looked at the disappearing figure with a complicated expression as she bitterly said, "I originally thought that the only person who could enter the 6th floor was Big Brother, whose strength had reached 3rd grade perfect. Who would have thought that Zhuowen, who no one cared about at the beginning, would actually have such powerful strength and be able to enter the 6th floor? This Zhuowen, who suddenly appeared, is definitely Big Brother's formidable opponent. However, Big Brother will not lose. After all, he still has that thing in his hand. It should not be a problem for him to enter the 8th floor." At this point, Su Qi's charming face regained some confidence. After all, Su Yang still had a trump card that he had not used yet. In the VIP seats, everyone's attention was fixed on the spiritual spell tower. When a dot of light suddenly appeared on the 6th floor of the spiritual spell tower, it immediately caused an uproar. Finally, someone has entered the 6th floor. I didn't expect him to reach the 6th floor so quickly. That's the pressure of a 3rd grade perfect. The strongest contestant this time is Su Yang. I'm afraid that Su Yang will be the first to enter the 6th floor. While the VIP seats were in an uproar, Master Ku Ya, Cho Cho, and the others' faces were as calm as still water. They silently stared at the changes in the spiritual spell tower. Although they were unhappy with Master Huayun, Su Yang was indeed very powerful. Even they could not deny that Su Yang would be the first to enter the 6th floor. Master Huayun's face was also filled with pride. As Su Yang's master, he knew that Su Yang's true strength had already reached the 3rd grade perfect. Previously, he had been hiding his strength. Master Huayun believed that with Su Yang's strength at the 3rd grade perfect, he should be able to force his way into the 7th floor. As for the 8th floor, it would be very difficult for Su Yang to reach it no matter how heaven-defying he was. However, Master Huayun was not worried at all. This was because Su Yang still had a trump card that he had not used. This trump card was naturally prepared for the 8th floor. Another person has entered the 6th floor. Look! Suddenly, an anxious exclamation sounded from the VIP seats again. Master Huayun heard this and immediately turned his head. Indeed, 2 dots of light had appeared on the 6th floor. There's actually someone who has the strength to enter the 6th floor. With Su Qi's strength, it should be impossible for him to enter the 6th floor. I'm afraid that person should be Yiyang City's Zhu Yi. However, with Zhu Yi's strength at the peak of the 3rd grade perfect realm, I'm afraid that he will stop at the 6th floor. At this point, Master Huayun suddenly glanced at the 5th floor and sneered inwardly. As for that Zhuowen, no matter how heaven-defying he is, he's only at the 3rd grade perfect realm. At most, he should be able to enter the 5th floor. The 7th floor. This person is so strong. He didn't stay on the 6th floor for long and actually went straight to the 7th floor. Another exclamation suddenly resounded throughout the VIP seats. Then, everyone's faces were filled with disbelief as they looked at the dazzling dot of light on the 7th floor of the Spirit Incantation Tower. On the 6th floor of the Spirit Incantation Tower, the spiritual pressure was so dense that it was almost suffocating. As soon as he entered, Zhuowen's spiritual barrier was crushed by the surrounding spiritual pressure like a tidal wave. It was unstable and almost collapsed. The 6th floor is indeed abnormal. This level of spiritual pressure has probably reached the peak of the 3rd grade perfect realm. Even the spiritual barrier formed by 5 strands of spiritual force almost couldn't withstand it. Zhuowen couldn't help but sigh as he hurriedly stabilized the spiritual barrier around him. However, what made Zhuowen happy was that the perception on the 6th floor was even denser. The endless stream of perception was like a stream flowing into a river as Zhuowen crazily absorbed it. The spiritual force in his Niwen Palace also began to transform. As he sensed the constantly gathering perception around him, Zhuowen looked around but didn't see Su Yang's figure. He couldn't help but frown. Chapter 290. Snatching the star ignite. To be able to go from the 6th floor to the 7th floor in such a short period of time, it's impossible for an advanced grade 3 arcanist to do so. Even an advanced grade 3 arcanist would have a hard time on the 6th floor. It's only possible for a perfected grade 3 mental energy to reach the 7th floor in such a short period of time. This Su Yang is really not simple. Looking around at the empty surroundings, Zhuowen's eyes flickered. He coldly snorted and muttered to himself, the strength of a perfected grade 3 arcanist. This Su Yang is probably hiding deeper than me. However, with 81 strands of mental energy, I'm not afraid. As he spoke, Zhuowen suddenly took a step forward. His Niwen palace frantically spun out. Strands of mental energy, like swimming dragons, burst forth and surrounded Zhuowen's body, forming layer after layer of solid mental energy barriers. A total of 27 strands of mental energy, like bricks piling up a house, formed an unfathomable mental energy barrier around Zhuowen's body. It forcibly resisted the mental energy pressure of the 6th floor. After that, Zhuowen strode towards the stairs of the 7th floor. He couldn't let Su Yang beat him to it. On the 7th floor, a figure slowly walked unsteadily. His steps were heavy but steady. Bean-sized droplets of sweat continuously dripped down, almost forming small puddles around his feet. This figure was Su Yang. With his perfected grade 3 mental energy, Su Yang passed through the 6th floor without any obstacles. After all, the mental energy pressure on the 6th floor was only at the perfected grade 3 arcanist. With his current strength, passing through was naturally not difficult. Glancing behind him, Su Yang coldly laughed and muttered to himself, no one would have thought that I've already broken through to the perfected grade 3 arcanist realm. No one can stop me from becoming the final champion in this arcana ceremony. However, the mental energy pressure on the 7th floor is really terrifying. Although it's not at the level of a grade 4 arcanist, I'm afraid it's comparable to the mental energy pressure of a half-step 4th arcanist. With my current strength, I'm afraid it'll be difficult to reach the 8th floor. However, with that thing, I'll have a lot more confidence in reaching the 8th floor. Su Yang muttered as he walked. Boom. Suddenly, a powerful fluctuation spread out like a ripple on the 7th floor. Then, light footsteps slowly sounded on the empty 7th floor. The sudden fluctuation and the resounding footsteps caused Su Yang's pupils to shrink. A look of disbelief flashed across his eyes. He really couldn't imagine who else would have the strength to reach the 7th floor of the Spirit Curse Tower in this arcana ceremony. As he turned around abruptly, a slender figure suddenly appeared in his eyes. Then, Su Yang's pupils shrank again until they were as small as needles. Under his gaze, the figure that had just appeared at the entrance raised his head slightly, revealing a slightly delicate and pretty face. How is this possible? Zhuowen. How could you possibly have the strength to come to the 7th floor? Su Yang finally couldn't hold back the shock in his heart and cried out loudly. What? Can't I come to the 7th floor? The corners of Zhuowen's mouth curled into an arc. His eyes revealed a trace of coldness as he sneered. What a strange kid. His mental energy is clearly only at the advanced 3rd level, but he was able to reach the 7th floor. However, this is good too. I'll get rid of you here and save myself the trouble of making a move later. After calming down, Su Yang's lips curled into a cold smile. He stared coldly at Zhuowen, like a poisonous snake staring at its prey. That's right. If I were to cripple you right here, your master would probably not say anything about it. After all, there are no restrictions on fighting in the Arcana Tower. As long as I don't kill you, no one can say anything. Zhuowen nodded seriously and said calmly, What a reckless fellow. You're about to die, yet you're still so arrogant. Su Yang's face immediately turned gloomy. With a thought, an extremely powerful mental energy rushed directly towards Zhuowen. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and snorted coldly. The 27 mental barriers around his body instantly split into whips and entangled the mental energy that was heading straight for him. Boom. The mental energy released by Su Yang was instantly entangled by Zhuowen's 27 mental energy whips. As expected, you have some skills. However, you're still not qualified to be my opponent. Su Yang let out a cold snort and took a step forward. Then, his powerful spiritual energy surged out. Boundless mental energy immediately intertwined and outlined a fixed path in a 30-feet radius around Su Yang. In an instant, a strange formation had been formed around Su Yang. Within the formation, there were countless spiral-shaped needle-like objects that continuously revolved around Su Yang. Formation of eternal creation? Zhuowen frowned and couldn't help but mutter to himself. He had obtained this inherited level secret spirit skill from Su Qi. Now that he saw Su Yang use it, Zhuowen recognized it at a glance. Let me borrow your words from before. I won't kill you. I'll just cripple you. Su Yang sneered. With a light stomp of his foot, the countless spiral-shaped objects surrounding his body suddenly whooshed out like raindrops. Cripple me? I'm afraid you don't have that ability, Zhuowen sneered. Suddenly, a blazing temperature rose around his body. Then, endless thunder fire emerged from his body and turned into a shield of thunder and fire in front of him. Bang! 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 Countless spiral-shaped objects rustled and landed on the fire shield. Immediately, slight ripples appeared on the surface of the fire shield. However, they didn't break through the defense of the fire shield. 9 Heavens Thunder Inferno? I forgot that you also have Earth Fire. However, I'd like to see if your 9 Heavens Thunder Inferno is more powerful than my Star Inferno. Seeing that the formation of eternal creation was blocked, Su Yang narrowed his eyes. Unwilling to be outdone, he stomped his foot and star-like flames surged out from his body. Then, they turned into a huge fire snake that suddenly pounced towards Zhuowen. Seeing the fire snake formed by the Star Inferno pouncing over, Zhuowen's eyes flashed. There was even a trace of joy in the depths of his eyes. I've been waiting for you to release the Star Inferno. Xiao Hei, take out the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron and keep the Star Inferno. I'll help you block Su Yang's attack. Zhuowen softly muttered. Then, he patted his Chenkuan bag and took out a palm-sized round cauldron. At the same time, a black shadow scuttled out from between Zhuowen's brows. Then, a Xiao Hei dog stood on Zhuowen's shoulder with its hands behind its back. Then, it hooked its paw and directly grabbed the small round cauldron. With a mischievous smile, it said, "You can rest assured when this Dragon Lord handles things." Zhuowen glanced at Xiao Hei suspiciously. Then, he stomped his foot and focused on controlling the 9 Heavens Thunder Inferno outside his body to block the incoming Star Inferno. Rumble. When the two powerful earth flames collided, countless sparks instantly erupted. A loud, ear-piercing rumble suddenly erupted in the entire 7th floor. The powerful force even caused the surrounding air to explode. After blocking the Star Inferno, Zhuowen turned his head and shouted at Xiao Hei on his shoulder, "Xiao Hei, take advantage of this opportunity to attack." "Got it," Xiao Hei lazily replied. Then, its expression suddenly turned serious. With a flick of its paw, the round cauldron in its hand instantly expanded to dozens of feet in size. The 9-wheel burning sky cauldron was a 3-legged round cauldron. Its golden exterior emitted a dazzling light. At the bottom of the cauldron, there were 9 large fire vents with 2 different colored flames burning. These 2 flames were the origin flames of the 9 Heavens Thunder Inferno and the 3000 Jade Lotus Flame. "Keep it for this Dragon Lord." Xiao Hei's paw suddenly slapped the 3rd fire vent from the right to the left. The 9-wheel burning sky cauldron immediately trembled and emitted a low buzzing sound. Then, an extremely powerful suction force was continuously transmitted from within. On the other side, after Zhuowen took out the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron, Su Yang faintly felt that something was wrong. Now, the powerful suction force that suddenly came from the fire vent of the round cauldron was actually faintly sucking in the Star Inferno that he had unleashed. He immediately felt that something was wrong. "What is this thing of yours? It can actually absorb my Star Inferno?" Su Yang could not help but exclaim. "Your Star Inferno? It will soon be mine. Xiao Hei, be quick. Directly suck out the Star Inferno origin from this fellow's body." Zhuowen revealed a cold smile as he spoke to Xiao Hei beside him. "This Dragon Lord has never made a mistake. Brat, watch carefully. Xiao Hei waved its paw and an ink-black energy was injected into the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron. The other 8 fire vents at the bottom of the round cauldron actually produced an extremely powerful suction force. In an instant, the star inferno that was originally in a deadlock with the 9 heavens thunder inferno was sucked over. Damn it. You want my star inferno? Don't even think about it. A trace of cold sweat appeared on Su Yang's forehead. However, he still did his best to control the star inferno so that it would not be sucked away by the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron. You'd better take care of yourself first. Your star inferno is destined to change owners today. A clear voice suddenly rang out not far from Su Yang. Then, an extremely hot aura swept over. Su Yang tilted his head to look and saw that Zhuowen was wrapped in the 9 heavens thunder inferno. It was as if the 9 heavens thunder inferno was descending from the heavens. It ferociously descended towards Su Yang's head. The whip leg that was filled with intertwining lightning and fire was already accumulating power as it smashed towards Su Yang's head. If Su Yang did not dodge, he would most likely be hit by Zhuowen's whip leg and might even lose his life. However, if he dodged, his star inferno would really be completely sucked over by the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron. Damn it! Zhuowen, you bastard, remember this. With a roar, Su Yang unwillingly leaped and directly dodged Zhuowen's whip leg that was sweeping down. In the end, Su Yang still chose his life. Rumble. Like a meteorite, the whip leg heavily smashed into the ground with lightning and fire, causing the ground to shatter. Like a spiderweb, the cracks spread several feet in all directions. Whoosh. The suction force of the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron suddenly increased and in one breath, it completely pulled out the star inferno from Su Yang's body. Poochie. Chapter 291. Su Yang, who had suffered a crushing defeat. Zhuowen, you will regret this. Su Yang's expression was extremely gloomy as he watched the star flame being absorbed by the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron. His eyes were filled with dense killing intent. Regret. Even the star flame has been absorbed by me. Do you think you still have the qualifications to criticize me? Zhuowen coldly laughed as he glanced at Su Yang indifferently. Buzz. At the same time, the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron finally absorbed all of the star flame. The cauldron trembled and emitted an ear-piercing buzzing sound. Then, it shrank to the size of a palm and entered Zhuowen's palm. Zhuowen could feel the intense undulations from the struggling star ignition flame in the 3rd fire vent of the 9-wheel burning heaven cauldron in his palm. He could not help but feel joy in his heart. He knew that as long as he could completely refine the star ignition flame, the pressure of the 9-wheel burning heaven cauldron would probably rise to another level. Kid. It was all thanks to this Dragon Lord's help that you were able to subdue the star flame. Xiao Hei returned to Zhuowen's shoulder and said smugly as he raised his head. Yes. Thank you very much for this time. You can go back first. I will deal with this Su Yang. Zhuowen said with a faint smile as he nodded slightly. Xiao Hei did not say anything. He nodded and directly turned into a black light that entered the depths of Zhuowen's forehead. Looking at the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron that had finished absorbing the star flame, Su Yang's expression was extremely ugly. He looked at Zhuowen with resentment and said, Zhuowen, you forced me to do this. Originally, I planned to use that thing to enter the 8th level. Now, I have no choice but to use it. As he spoke, Su Yang suddenly patted his Chenkuan bag. An intense white light shot out and a transparent octahedral crystal appeared in Su Yang's palm. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. He didn't expect Su Yang to be so confident even though he had taken away the star flame in his body. However, when Zhuowen saw the octahedral crystal in Su Yang's palm, his expression suddenly changed and his eyes narrowed. Grade 4 Origin Crystal, Dazzling God Crystal. You actually have such a precious Origin Crystal on you. Zhuowen's face sank, and he couldn't help but exclaim in a low voice. The Brilliant God Crystal was a 4th grade Origin Crystal, and its main function was to increase an Arcana Master's mental strength by 50% for a short period of time. Its function was quite similar to the Blood Chi Crystal, but the main function of the Blood Chi Crystal was to increase martial strength, while the Brilliant God Crystal increased mental strength. Moreover, There were no side effects after using the brilliant God Crystal. Compete. This dazzling God Crystal is enough to raise my consciousness to the level of a half-step 4th rank Arcana Master. So what if you have Earthfire? In front of great power, you're just an ant-like existence. The coldness in Su Yang's eyes became even more intense. Then, he directly crushed the brilliant God Crystal. Immediately, the fragments of the origin crystal turned into countless transparent energies in the air and poured into Su Yang's body like a river entering the sea. Boom! In an instant, a huge pressure, like a 10,000-meter-tall mountain, came crashing down with a rumble. The powerful mental strength even forced the 7th floor's mental strength to retreat. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and looked at Su Yang, who was bursting with powerful mental strength not far from him. A grave expression appeared on his face. Just as Su Yang had said, after using the brilliant God Crystal, his mental strength had far surpassed that of a perfect 3rd rank Arcana Master. It was probably comparable to a half-step 4th rank Arcana Master. Zhuowen. My, Su Yang's, things are never so easy to take. If you take my things, then you have to be prepared to die. Countless amounts of mental energy enveloped Su Yang's entire body like a hurricane. His feet slowly floated in the air as he indifferently looked down at Zhuowen. Prepared to die? Aren't you afraid of biting your tongue? Do you really think that you can kill me after using the brilliant God Crystal? The corners of Zhuowen's mouth curled into a sneer as he said indifferently, "You're still so arrogant even when you're about to die. You really don't know what's good for you. Go to hell." Su Yang shouted, and the powerful mind power that surrounded him suddenly condensed into a huge long sword in front of him. Swoosh! The long sword, which seemed to be real, cut through the sky. Along the way, there were countless explosions, almost tearing the air apart. Then I'll see how powerful your mental strength is after using the brilliant God Crystal. Zhuowen was not to be outdone. He gently stomped his feet and the 27 mental strength around him immediately turned into 27 mental barriers. Boom! 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 The mental strength sword was like a hot knife through butter. When it came into contact with the mental barriers in front of Zhuowen, it only paused for a moment. Then, it directly pierced through without stopping. In the blink of an eye, it had directly pierced through 20 mental barriers. Zhuowen's pupils shrank. He did not expect the mental strength sword to be so powerful. In an instant, it had pierced through 20 mental barriers. You do have some skill. With a cold snort, Zhuowen stomped his feet on the ground and directly flew back. At the same time, the remaining 7 mental barriers that were bitterly holding on in front of him shattered inch by inch. Want to escape? No way. Seeing the figure continuously retreating, Su Yang's eyes were filled with killing intent. With a thought, the mental strength sword in the air immediately buzzed. Then, it cut through the sky and once again rushed towards Zhuowen. Its speed was so fast that it was dazzling. Seeing the mental strength sword rushing towards him, Zhuowen's eyes were filled with coldness. With a thought, his Niwen palace once again started to crazily rotate. Then, an even more powerful mental strength gushed out. Like countless fish jumping out of the water, the mental strength appeared in front of Zhuowen. This time, Zhuowen released a total of 54 mental strength. 54 mental strength formed a thick mental barrier in front of Zhuowen. Layer after layer, it appeared incomparably thick. Boom! The mental strength sword once again collided with the mental barrier. However, this time, the mental strength sword did not easily pierce through the mental barrier like before. Instead, it became incomparably sluggish. How is this possible? This guy's mental strength has actually increased. How did he do it? Seeing the mental strength sword that was suddenly blocked, Su Yang's eyes widened and he could not help but frown. Break for me. With a loud shout, the 54 mental strength in front of Zhuowen suddenly compressed. It actually directly crushed the mental strength sword that pierced through it, turning it into nothingness. Why is this guy's mental strength so strange? It's clearly only at the advanced 3rd grade mental strength. Why is it so powerful? Even my mental strength sword was broken. Su Yang could no longer hide the shock on his face and exclaimed, "Su Yang, die for me." Just as Su Yang fell into a state of shock, A loud shout suddenly rang out. Then, a figure suddenly rushed towards Su Yang like a ghost. Along the way, it turned into countless after-images, causing Su Yang to feel dazzled. Even though he's a little strange, he's still only a peak third-rank arcana master. No matter how strong he is, he's no match for me. The difference between a half-step fourth-rank arcana master and a peak third-rank arcana master is like the difference between heaven and earth. Looking at the figure that rushed straight towards him, Su Yang coldly snorted. With a thought, the mental strength around him like a hurricane suddenly surrounded his entire body, directly turning into a thick mental barrier that was like a tortoise's shell. Boom! 54 mental strength directly poured into the mental barrier in front of Su Yang. It actually only caused the latter's mental barrier to shake a little. After that, there was no other movement. Zhuowen, although I don't know why you, an advanced third-grade arcanist, have so much mental strength in your body, but even if that's the case, so what? You still can't break through my consciousness barrier. That's the difference between a high-tier arcana and a low-tier arcana. Su Yang laughed loudly, his expression full of mockery. If 54 isn't enough, then 81. I don't believe that I can't completely destroy your mental barrier even if I increase my mental strength to 81. Zhuowen's face did not look flustered and exasperated. Instead, he said rather calmly, 54? 81? At this time, Su Yang was a little confused. However, just as he was puzzled, he was surprised to find that the mental strength in Zhuowen's body in front of him had skyrocketed again. His mental strength was actually much stronger than before. This guy can actually continue to increase the strength of his mental strength. How did he do it? At this time, Su Yang's face was as if he had seen a ghost. He could only stare blankly at the young man in front of him. 81 mental strength almost turned into an invisible giant mountain in midair. With unparalleled power, it fiercely smashed on the mental barrier in front of Su Yang with a rumbling sound. Catcher! A crisp sound suddenly rang out. Then, Su Yang's pupils shrank as he found that the surface of the mental barrier in front of him was gradually showing traces of cracks. Finally, it completely shattered with a bang. Accompanied by countless mental fragments, Zhuowen's powerful mental strength finally fiercely smashed on Su Yang's body. Poochie! Fresh blood gushed out from Su Yang's mouth like a faucet that was not turned on properly. Then, his body was like a kite with a broken string, fiercely flying backward and finally landing on the ground. Whoosh! In an instant, he arrived in front of Su Yang. Zhuowen lifted his foot and stepped on Su Yang's chest. He bent down and hooked his right hand, taking the Chenkuan bag from Su Yang's waist. With a mocking look in his eyes, he said, "There is a restriction set by your master in the Chenkuan bag, right? Break this restriction." Until now, Su Yang still could not believe that he was defeated so easily. Moreover, he was defeated by the young man Zhuowen, whom he did not pay much attention to from the beginning. This made the arrogant him feel extremely sullen in his heart. "You want my Chenkuan bag? Don't even think about it." Su Yang looked at Zhuowen with a venomous gaze and said coldly, "Not breaking? Then you can go to hell." His gaze suddenly turned cold. Zhuowen's mental strength suddenly condensed into a sharp arrow and fiercely shot towards the center of Su Yang's eyebrows. Seeing that the mental arrow was getting closer and closer, Su Yang's heart suddenly jumped. He could not help but shout, "Don't kill me, I will help you break the restriction." Whoosh! Chapter 292. 8th floor. With a toss of his right hand, Zhuowen threw the Chenkuan bag to Su Yang as he coldly said, "Hurry up and break the seal on the Chenkuan bag. Don't play any tricks, or I'll kill you immediately." Su Yang's face was filled with grievance. However, after sensing Zhuowen's murderous gaze, he could only sigh. He bit his thumb and formed a seal with both hands, drawing a strange array on the surface of the Chenkuan bag. Only after the fresh blood had completely entered the Chenkuan bag did Su Yang throw it back to Zhuowen. However, his face was filled with unwillingness. After receiving the Chenkuan bag, Zhuowen discovered that the seal on the surface had indeed been broken. Joy involuntarily appeared on his face as he directly used his mental energy to investigate the situation inside. After a while, When Zhuowen withdrew his mental energy, a trace of joy immediately appeared on his face. Su Yang's Chenkuan bag contained quite a number of crystals, and even 3 grade 3 yuan arrays. It could be said that Su Yang's value was much higher than Su Qi's. Zhuowen made a rough estimate. The value of Su Yang's Chenkuan bag was equivalent to over 200,000 Emperor Yuan pills. This was a huge sum of money. Arcana masters are indeed extremely wealthy. Su Yang is merely a grade 3 Arcana master, but the value of the Chenkuan bag on him has already exceeded the value of the Emperor Yuan pills I obtained from the ancient cave. Zhuowen could not help but click his tongue as he weighed the Chenkuan bag in his hand. Zhuowen, can you let me go now? Su Yang glanced at Zhuowen and somewhat cautiously said. If Zhuowen still wanted to kill him after taking the Chenkuan bag, he would have really suffered a double loss. Scram! Zhuowen suddenly kicked Su Yang's chest. Su Yang immediately spat out a mouthful of blood and flew dozens of meters away. On the other hand, Zhuowen directly walked towards the stairs. Su Yang, who was rolling on the ground, suddenly trembled as he viciously glared at Zhuowen's back. However, after witnessing Zhuowen's methods, he no longer dared to speak harshly. However, when he saw Zhuowen directly walking towards the stairs to the 8th floor, a mocking smile appeared on his face. In his opinion, although it was rather unbelievable that Zhuowen could defeat him, the mental energy pressure on the stairs to the 8th floor was much stronger than other places. He did not think that even Zhuowen could successfully ascend it. Arriving in front of the stairs, Zhuowen's eyes focused as he stared at the stairs that were formed purely from the interweaving of countless mental energy. His expression turned grave. He knew that as long as he ascended the stairs, he would be able to become the champion of this arcane ceremony. As for the grade 4 origin formation placed on the 8th level, it naturally belonged to him. Stomp! Taking a deep breath, Zhuowen suddenly lifted his foot and stepped on the first step. Suddenly, a mountain-like pressure poured down, causing Zhuowen to almost lose his balance. Completely suppress it for me. A cold light flashed in his eyes. The mental energy around Zhuowen suddenly surged, blocking the erosion of the mental energy pressure on the stairs. Then, Zhuowen fiercely stomped his foot and finally stepped on the first step. Stomp, stomp, stomp. The moment he took the first step, Zhuowen lifted his foot again. He actually took 7 consecutive steps on the stairs and directly stepped on the 7th step. Boom! On the 7th step, the powerful mental energy pressure was like the water pressure in the deep sea. It continuously pressed down on Zhuowen in a spiral shape. 81 mental energy, block it for me. With a cold snort, the 81 mental energy around Zhuowen immediately surrounded his body in an oval shape. Layers of mental energy surrounded Zhuowen and finally completely blocked the pressure on the 7th step. Stomp! With another step, Zhuowen stepped on the 8th step. The pressure was like the intense pressure in the eye of a hurricane. The mental energy barrier formed by the 81 mental energy on the surface of Zhuowen's body shook a little. Stomp! At the 9th step, the mental energy pressure had become viscous and terrifying. It was as if every trace of pressure was like 1,000,000 tons of heavy objects pressing down on Zhuowen. It almost caused the mental energy barrier in front of Zhuowen to cave in. Step on the 10th step for me. At this moment, Zhuowen's eyes were almost scarlet red. The powerful pressure on the 9th step had almost crushed his mental energy. A trace of cherry-red blood began to flow from the corner of Zhuowen's mouth. However, his eyes were filled with determination and an unyielding expression. Stomp! Suddenly lifting his foot, Zhuowen fiercely stepped on the 10th step. The pressure on the 10th step had turned into a storm. It rotated in a spiral shape and ruthlessly crushed down on Zhuowen's body. With a muffled groan, Zhuowen's face became incomparably red. The veins on his forehead bulged and his entire body tensed up. His lifted foot actually froze in mid-air at this moment. Crack! A crisp sound suddenly rang out. Then, Zhuowen was shocked to find that the mental energy barrier in front of him had begun to crack. Moreover, the cracks were spreading at an extremely fast speed. His pupils shrank. Zhuowen knew that the mental energy barrier couldn't hold on for much longer. He had to quickly step over it. Just a little more, I'll step over it. Steeling his heart, Zhuoan didn't care about the powerful pressure on the 10th step and directly stepped on it. Then, Zhuoan disappeared from the steps. Su Yang, whose face was originally full of ridicule, froze at this moment. His eyes bulged as he stared in disbelief at the disappearing figure and the somewhat empty steps not far away. That guy actually stepped over it just like that. Su Yang's mouth was slightly agape. He suddenly felt that his throat was a little dry. He opened his mouth and only a few words came out of it. Outside the spirit spell tower, everyone stared intently at the changes in the light spot on the tower. For a moment, the entire seating area became rather quiet. The light spot on the 7th floor should be Su Yang. I'm afraid there's no suspense in this arcana ceremony anymore, Grandmaster Hue Yun said confidently as he crossed his arms and looked in the direction of the spirit spell tower. Hue Yun, are you so sure that the light spot on the 7th floor is Su Yang? The mental energy pressure on the 7th floor has probably reached the level of a half-step grade 4 arcanist. Even a peak grade 3 arcanist at the peak of the mastery level would find it difficult to withstand the pressure on the 7th floor, Grandmaster Han Yun said with some displeasure. A peak grade 3 arcanist at the peak of the mastery level would find it difficult to enter the 7th floor. However, if it's a peak grade 3 arcanist, entering the 7th floor shouldn't be a problem. At this point, Grandmaster Hue Yun suddenly raised his voice and couldn't help but glance at Cho Cho and the others in the front row. Peak grade 3 arcana ceremony? Could it be that your disciple Su Yang's mental energy has reached the peak grade 3 arcanist? Grandmaster Han Yun was suddenly shocked and couldn't help but cry out in surprise. Su Yang broke through to the peak grade 3 arcanist half a month ago. However, this old man suppressed his strength to the peak grade 3 arcanist. Since someone has entered the 7th floor, it can only be Su Yang. Grandmaster Hue Yun raised his head and said rather arrogantly. Grandmaster Hue Yun and Grandmaster Han Yun's conversation wasn't soft. Many people in the VIP seating area heard the content of their conversation. When they heard that Su Yang's true strength was a peak grade 3 arcanist, they all burst into an uproar. He really hid his strength well. That Su Yang actually hid a part of his strength. If that Su Yang really is a peak grade 3 arcanist, I'm afraid that the champion of this arcana ceremony will be none other than Su Yang. Discussions broke out one after another. For a moment, the originally quiet VIP seating area suddenly became a little noisy. Cho Cho, who was sitting in the front row, frowned slightly. He did not expect Su Yang to hide his strength from the beginning. His strength had actually reached the level of grade 3 perfect. If this was true, it would be difficult for Zhuowen to win against Su Yang. Grandmaster Kuya and Ouyang Yuntu, who were sitting next to Cho Cho, also had a trace of uneasiness on their faces. Chapter 293. Conjecture the 8th floor. Who was that dot of light? They actually stayed on the 7th floor for such a short period of time before directly entering the 8th floor. Grandmaster Hue Yun was suddenly stunned. His expression was rather startled as he muttered to himself. Aside from Master Hue Yun, Master Cho Cho, Master Ku Ya, and the others who were sitting in the front row also had doubtful expressions on their faces. They also believed that the light spot that appeared on the 7th floor at the beginning should be Su Yang. However, who was the light spot that appeared later on? Moreover, this latecomer didn't even stay on the 7th floor for long and directly entered the 8th floor. They knew that the winner of this arcana ceremony had been decided, but they didn't know who the light on the 8th floor was. Senior Chiu, do you think the light spot that entered the 8th floor is Zhuowen or Su Yang? Master Kuya couldn't tell, so he turned to ask Cho Cho. At this moment, Cho Cho frowned and muttered to himself, I don't know either. After all, we can only see these specks of light from outside, but we can't tell who the specks of light represent. If we want to know who entered the 8th floor, I'm afraid we can only wait for the people inside to come out. Master Kuya nodded slightly. He also knew that it was meaningless to guess who the light spot on the 8th floor was. All they could do now was wait. On the 8th floor, the spiritual pressure had already become as viscous as water. It was so powerful that it felt as if there were millions of tons of mountains pressing down on one's body. It was enough to crush a person. In the 8th level, A figure was walking slowly. His speed was like an old ox pulling a cart, slow and sluggish. Sweat was dripping from his body like rain, dripping to his feet and accumulating into a small stream. This figure was Zhuowen. At this moment, Zhuowen's back was bent, but his eyes were staring straight ahead. 50 meters in front of him, there was a stone platform as tall as a person. On top of the stone platform, there was a brocade box. Zhuowen knew that the arcane arts ceremony's final reward, the 4th grade origin array, was in the brocade box on the stone platform. As long as he could get his hands on that brocade box, Zhuowen would be the final winner of the arcane arts ceremony. How terrifying! The spiritual pressure on the 8th floor has probably reached the level of level 4 lower mastery. Zhuowen couldn't help but smile bitterly as he looked at the 81 mental barriers that had sunk in around him. The mental pressure on the 8th floor was simply too terrifying. Zhuowen was almost unable to withstand it even if he used all of his abilities. The stone platform in front of him was only 50 meters away. Normally, he could cover this distance in the blink of an eye, but now, it was as far away as the ends of the earth. 30 more steps. However, this is already my limit. After taking a step forward, Zhuowen suddenly stopped. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked at the stone platform 30 steps away. The bitterness at the corner of his mouth became even more intense. Although you've managed to cultivate 81 strands of spiritual energy with the help of the myriad derivation scripture, your spiritual energy is still only at the peak of the 3rd rank. It's just that your spiritual energy is much greater than the average arcanist. These 30 steps are already your limit. If you dare to take another step, I'm afraid you'll really be crushed by the spiritual pressure here. Xiao Hei's voice suddenly sounded in his mind. I know. Looks like if I want to take another step forward, I'm afraid I'll have to raise my spiritual energy to the peak of the 3rd rank. Zhuowen said helplessly as he slightly nodded his head. He. Although the spiritual pressure on the 8th floor is too terrifying, the power of comprehension is several times stronger than the 7th floor. Your spiritual energy has already reached the peak of the 3rd rank. Normally, you'll need half a year to break through. But here, you'll only need a month. Hearing Xiao Hei's words, Zhuowen nodded his head in agreement. Then, he looked at the stone platform reluctantly and said, a month. With my current spiritual energy, I should be able to last a month on the 8th floor. Looks like the true face of the 4th rank Yuan array will only be revealed in a month. As he spoke, Zhuowen sat down cross-legged on the ground and slowly closed his eyes. He began to silently comprehend the power of comprehension floating in the air around him. Under the influence of the power of comprehension, Zhuowen's spiritual energy continued to increase at an astonishing rate. Time flew by and 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. During these 10 days, everyone in the VIP seats stared intently at the Spirit Spell Tower. As time passed, many arcanists in the Spirit Spell Tower could no longer withstand the spiritual pressure and left the tower one after another. In the first 5 days, the first 3 to leave the tower were the 3 arcanists from the 1st floor. In the next 5 days, nearly 30 arcanists from the 2nd floor also left the Spirit Spell Tower. When these arcanists left the Spirit Spell Tower and saw a dazzling dot of light on the 8th floor, they knew that the Arcana ceremony was about to begin. However, they were also very curious. Who could reach the 8th floor of the Spirit Spell Tower? 15 days passed and the dozen or so dots of light on the 3rd floor dimmed. Soon after, more than 10 people appeared at the bottom of the Spirit Spell Tower. Ouyang Yatao was among them. After returning to the VIP seats, Ouyang Yatao walked in front of Grandmaster Xian Ling in disappointment and said with a bitter smile, "Master, I've disappointed you this time. Your disciple couldn't even reach the 4th floor of the Spirit Spell Tower." Grandmaster Xian Ling waved his hand and said, "Ari, this isn't your fault. This Arcana ceremony is different from the past. There are simply too many experts. It's already pretty good that you were able to last until the 3rd floor. That's right. Big brother, this isn't your fault either. There are more than 20 participants in this Arcana ceremony who are not weaker than you, and there are 7 or 8 who are stronger than you. It's really too difficult for you to win." Ouyang Shishue sighed from the side. Lightly nodding his head, Ouyang Yatao tilted his head and focused his gaze on the spirit spell tower. When he saw that there was a dot of light on the 8th and 7th floors respectively, he frowned and muttered to himself, I wonder who reached the 8th floor. Is it Su Yang, Zhuowen, or Ju Yi? Ever since he found out that Zhuowen's true strength was that of a grade 3 advanced arcana master, Ouyang Yatao knew that Zhuowen wasn't ordinary. It was very likely that he had the strength to contend with Ju Yi and Su Yang, who were at the same level. I'm afraid it's Su Yang. Just now, Grandmaster Hue Yun revealed that Su Yang's true strength has probably reached grade 3 advanced arcana master. This kind of strength is far stronger than the other participant. As for Ju Yi and Zhuowen, I'm afraid it'll be difficult for them to contend against him. Grandmaster Xian Ling suddenly sighed softly. Grade 3 advanced arcana master? This Su Yang was actually hiding his strength. Ouyang Yatao suddenly exclaimed when he heard this. Then, a trace of a bitter smile appeared on his face. It seemed that even if Zhuowen had the strength of a grade 3 advanced arcana master, it would be difficult for him to contend against Su Yang. The wait continued. When the 20th day passed, the 3 specks of light on the 4th floor dimmed. Then, 3 figures appeared at the bottom of the tower. One of them was Xuanai, who had a cold expression, and the other 2 were the 2 arcanists at the initial stage of the 3rd rank that Yeyang City had sent out. What's going on? Why didn't Zhuowen come out? Isn't this brat's strength only at the lower grade 3 advanced arcana master? How could he enter the 5th floor with such strength? Grandmaster Hue Yun frowned slightly when he didn't find Zhuowen among the 3 people at the bottom of the tower. A trace of an ominous premonition rose in his heart. Master, your disciple has embarrassed you this time. Xuanai returned to Grandmaster Ku Ya's side. She lowered her head and didn't dare to look at Grandmaster Ku Ya. Her lips squirmed as she said these words. Looking at Xuanai's gloomy expression in front of him, Grandmaster Ku Ya's heart ached. He gently patted Xuanai's shoulder and smiled, Don't worry too much. Our Broken Rock City still has hope. After all, Zhuowen hasn't come out yet. Xuanai nodded slightly when she heard this. Then, her beautiful eyes couldn't help but shift to the spiritual spell tower in the distance. She whispered to herself, Zhuowen, you must do your best. Now, you're the last hope of Broken Rock City's arcane guild. When the light spots on the 4th floor dimmed, everyone in the VIP seats couldn't help but look at the 5th, 7th, and 8th floors. There were 2 light spots on the 5th floor, none on the 6th floor, 1 light spot on the 7th floor, and 1 light spot on the 8th floor. Everyone knew that the light spot on the 8th floor was the champion of the arcane ceremony, but no one could confirm who it was. However, most people guessed that the light spot on the 8th floor should be Su Yang of Ending City. After all, Grandmaster Hue Yun had revealed that Su Yang's strength had reached the level of perfect grade 3. Such strength was the strongest among all the contestants of the arcane ceremony. Other than Su Yang, they couldn't think of anyone else who had the strength to reach the 8th floor. The remaining 4 light spots should be Su Qi, Ju Yi, Su Yang, and Zhuowen. I just don't know where the 4 of them are. Grandmaster Ku Ya, who was sitting at the front, frowned slightly and whispered. Su Qi and Ju Yi are both at the advanced grade 3, and Su Yang is a terrifying perfect grade 3, while Zhuowen is only at the initial grade 3. I'm afraid it'll be difficult for him to fight against the 3 of them, and even if Zhuowen's strength has broken through to the advanced grade 3, it's unlikely that he'll be Su Yang's opponent, Ouyang Yuntu said with a wry smile. Qiu Chou's face was gloomy as he said coldly, In a few days, when the 2 light spots on the 5th floor come out, we'll know the result. You don't have to argue now. Ouyang Yuntu and Grandmaster Ku Ya looked at each other and shut their mouths. They didn't dare to say another word. Another 5 days passed. At this time, 25 days had passed since the opening of the Spirit Curse Tower. The 2 light spots on the 5th floor finally flickered and dimmed. Then, 2 figures suddenly appeared at the bottom of the tower. They're out. The 2 light spots on the 5th floor have also come out. In an instant, the VIP seats suddenly became much livelier. Many people were unable to take their eyes off the 2 figures that had just appeared. Chapter 294. The winner has been decided. Swish. Swish. When the light gradually faded, the faces of the two figures appeared before everyone's eyes. It's Su Qi and Zhu Yi. There's no Zhuowen. Master Kuya was the first to react. When he didn't see Zhuowen's figure, a look of joy appeared on his face as he laughed heartily. Qiu Qiu, whose face was originally as calm as water, revealed a look of joy when he saw the two figures that appeared at the bottom of the tower. Zhuowen isn't here? Could it be that the kid entered the 7th or 8th floor? Master Han Yun, who was sitting at the back, couldn't help but exclaim. He couldn't help but focus his gaze on the two spots of light on the 7th and 8th floor. Master Hua Yun's face was extremely gloomy. Even he didn't expect that the two spots of light on the 5th floor didn't have Zhuowen's figure. Instead, Su Qi and Zhu Yi, who they had originally thought highly of, were eliminated. Su Qi and Zhu Yi's faces were rather ugly. Feeling the gazes from all around them, the two of them didn't want to stay at the bottom of the tower for too long. With a thought, they used their mental strength to fly to the VIP seats. After returning to Master Hua Yun and Master Han Yun's side, Su Qi and Zhu Yi lowered their heads and didn't say a word. What's going on? Su Qi, why did the two of you come out first? Where's Zhuowen? Master Hua Yun couldn't help but angrily question the two of them. Su Qi's jade-like neck shrunk. She glanced at Master Hua Yun, who was almost mad with anger, with some trepidation. She clasped her hands together and said cautiously, Zhuowen has been hiding his strength. His mental energy has probably reached the advanced 3rd grade. Oh, advanced 3rd grade? That Zhuowen actually had the strength of level 3 advanced realm? Since that kid is also at the advanced 3rd grade, why did he climb higher than the two of you? Master Hua Yun was slightly startled as he asked in a deep voice. Master, you can't blame me. It was Zhuowen who was particularly strange. Although he was also a level 3 advanced realm martial artist, he could actually possess 5 strands of mental strength. Moreover, all 5 strands of mental strength were not weaker than a level 3 advanced realm martial artist. It can be said that the guy's strength is much stronger than the average rank 3 advanced completion, which is why we. At this point, Su Qi's voice became softer and softer. Her beautiful eyes involuntarily glanced at Grandmaster Hua Yun and fell silent. 5 strands of spiritual power? How could this be? How could an arcanist have 5 strands of spirit? Moreover, these 5 strands of mentality also possess the power of 3rd stage advanced completion. When Master Hua Yun and Master Han Yun heard this, they were shocked. They couldn't help but exclaim in a low voice. Maybe that Zhuowen cultivates a special kind of spiritual secret skill, that's why he's able to possess 5 strands of mind power at the same time. Su Qi raised her beautiful eyes slightly and said somewhat cautiously. It must be a spiritual secret skill. I didn't expect there to be a spiritual secret skill in this world that could divide mental strength. However, wouldn't the mental strength that was divided be weaker than the average mental strength? Grandmaster Hua Yun nodded slightly and said with some doubt. Grandmaster Hua Yun's guess was correct. If the mental strength was divided, its purity and power would definitely be much weaker than the average mental strength. However, Zhuowen cultivated the Myriad Evolution Scripture, a spiritual secret skill that was famous even in ancient times. Apart from the method of splitting, the 10,000 derivation scripture also had a method of nurturing mental energy. This method could continuously strengthen the mental energy that was split until it reached the strength of the mental energy before it was split. Although the kid's 5 strands of mental strength surprised me, the gap between level 3 advanced completion and level 3 advanced completion is not something that can be made up for by 5 strands of mental strength. It seems that the light on the 7th floor should be Zhuowen. Even if he has 5 strands of mental strength, it's impossible for him to enter the 8th floor. After listening to Su Qi's description, Grandmaster Hua Yun appeared to have a card up his sleeve. He was well aware of the huge gap between level 3 advanced completion and level 3 advanced completion. On the other hand, Grandmaster Han Yun was slightly disappointed. At this moment, Zhu Yi had already been eliminated. This also meant that Yeyang City had no chance in this arcane ceremony. At this moment, there were only 2 light spots left in the spiritual curse tower. They were the light spots on the 7th floor and the light spots on the 8th floor. The only two people who hadn't come out were Zhuowen and Su Yang. Everyone knew that the champion of this arcane ceremony would definitely be one of these two people. As for who would be the champion, everyone was extremely looking forward to it. Another 5 days passed. The light spot on the 7th floor began to flicker, as if it was faintly unable to hold on. The light spot on the 7th floor seems to be unable to hold on. It seems that the final result will be revealed soon. The abnormality of the light spot on the 7th floor immediately attracted the attention of many people in the VIP seats. For a moment, everyone held their breath and stared at the light spot on the 7th floor with bright eyes. At this moment, Cho Cho, Grandmaster Ku Ya, and Ouyang Yuntu began to feel nervous. They knew that once the light spot on the 7th floor completely dimmed, the arcane ceremony's result would be revealed. Even Grandmaster Hue Yun, who was originally full of confidence, began to nervously focus his gaze on the light spot on the 7th floor. Although he believed in Su Yang's strength, he still felt somewhat uneasy. Kai. Finally, under everyone's gaze, the light spot on the 7th floor gradually dimmed after flickering for a while. Finally, it was extinguished. Then, a light shadow appeared at the bottom of the tower. If one looked carefully, the light shadow was in the shape of a person. It's out. The contestant on the 7th floor has come out. I wonder if it's Zhuowen or Su Yang. The moment the glowing figure appeared, the VIP seats immediately became noisy. Everyone stared unblinkingly at the glowing figure that gradually appeared in front of them. When the light completely faded, a young man with an ugly expression suddenly appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Then, the VIP seats instantly fell into silence. Because the figure that appeared in everyone's eyes turned out to be Su Yang, who everyone was optimistic about at the beginning. In other words, the light spot that really reached the 8th floor was the ordinary young man, Zhuowen. It's actually Su Yang. I didn't expect that Su Yang, whose strength has reached the complete grade 3, could only reach the 7th floor. He didn't even enter the 8th floor. Then, isn't the light spot on the 8th floor Zhuowen? Even Su Yang, who is at the complete grade 3, couldn't enter the 8th floor, but Zhuowen actually entered it. Could it be that Zhuowen's true strength has reached that of a grade 4 arcanist? This result is really unbelievable. In the end, Su Yang lost. The sound of discussion was like a bomb at this moment, exploding in the VIP seats. Everyone was discussing spiritedly, whispering to each other. Master Hue Yun, who originally had a look of anticipation, had his expression stiffened. His mouth was slightly open, and his pupils shrank. He just stared blankly at Su Yang, who was at the bottom of the tower. He was stunned on the spot. Big Brother actually lost. How is that possible? Big Brother's strength has reached the complete grade 3, and he also has the brilliant God Crystal, which can increase mental strength. How could he lose to Zhuowen? Su Qi couldn't help but cover her mouth with her jade-like hand and exclaim out loud. Her pretty face was completely pale at this moment. On the other side, Master Han Yun and the dazed Ju Yi were also stunned at this time. Even they didn't expect such a result. In the front row of the VIP seats, Cho Cho, Master Kuya, and Ouyang Yuntu were also stunned. Then, Master Kuya's right hand trembled and he actually crushed the armrest beside him in excitement. He couldn't help but mutter to himself, the person who appeared is really Su Yang, and not Zhuowen. It really is Su Yang. The one who entered the 8th floor is Zhuowen. It's Zhuowen. The arcane champion this time is Zhuowen, who represents our broken rock city, haha. Ouyang Yuntu slapped his thigh and couldn't help but laugh heartily. Haha. This old man really didn't misjudge Zhuowen. This little guy really hid his strength well. Even Su Yang wasn't his opponent. I really don't know how this little guy did it. Cho Cho's originally tense face also relaxed at this time, and a trace of a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. The most surprised person was Xuanai, who was standing beside Master Kuya. At this time, Xuanai's beautiful eyes were fixed on the light spot on the 8th floor of the Spirit Curse Tower. A trace of imperceptible admiration appeared in the depths of her eyes. She muttered, I really didn't expect that the one who hid his strength the most wasn't Su Yang, but Zhuowen. What about you? In the corner, Master Xianling and Master Karaki were also stunned. Originally, Master Karaki was full of confidence in Zhuowen. After all, very few contestants who participated in the arcane ceremony had mental strength that reached the advanced 3rd grade. However, after hearing Master Hue Yun reveal that Su Yang was actually a perfect grade 3 arcana master, he knew that Zhuo Wen's chances of victory were extremely slim. After all, the difference between a perfect grade 3 arcana master and a great grade 3 arcana master was too great. Karaki, how did your disciple Zhuowen do it? Su Yang is stronger than you and me, but your disciple Zhuowen was able to defeat Su Yang. Master Xian Ling's throat twitched, and then asked in a rather dry voice. Master Karaki shook his somewhat stiff neck and replied in a similarly dry voice, actually, I also don't know. I also never thought that Zhuowen would be able to defeat Su Yang, who is a complete 3rd grade arcanist. Standing at the bottom of the Spirit Curse Tower, Su Yang felt the various gazes from all around him. His face twitched, and became more and more unsightly. Turning his head to look at the light spot on the 8th floor of the Spirit Curse Tower, Su Yang's eyes were filled with resentment. He gritted his teeth and muttered, Zhuowen, remember this. I will never forget the humiliation I suffered today. Chapter 295. 3rd grade perfection Su Yang. What's going on here? With your 3rd grade great perfection mental strength and a powerful crystal like the brilliant God crystal, don't tell me you can't beat Zhuowen? Master Hue Yun's face was gloomy to the extreme as he coldly stared at Su Yang, who had returned to his side. Su Yang's face changed. He gritted his teeth and said, Master, that Zhuowen is too strange. He only has the mental strength of a 3rd grade perfection, but his body can release 81 strands of mental strength. Even if I use the brilliant God crystal, I'm still no match for that bastard. What? 81 strands of mental strength? How is that possible? Master Hue Yun's face twitched when he heard this. He couldn't help but exclaim in a low voice. Even Master Han Yun beside him was shocked. Master, it is absolutely true. Otherwise, with my strength, how could I have been defeated by an advanced level 3 arcana master? Su Yang smiled bitterly, his lips trembling as he spoke. The secret spirit skill that Zhuowen cultivates is not ordinary. He can actually split 81 strands of mental strength. This is a secret skill that defies common sense. Master Hue Yun looked at Su Yang and sighed. He knew that if what Su Yang said was true, then even if Su Yang had the strength of a 3rd grade perfection, it would be difficult for him to be Zhuowen's opponent. Hey, where's your Chenkuan bag? Why can't I feel the star flame in your body? What's going on? Master Hue Yun's gaze suddenly froze as he frowned and asked Su Yang. Su Yang's face became gloomy when he heard this. He stuttered and said, it was all stolen by Zhuowen. Bang! Master Hue Yun suddenly crushed the handle beside him. He looked at Su Yang in disbelief and said loudly, you said it was stolen? The Chenkuan bag on your body has a restriction placed by this old man, and the star flame is your flame source. Could it be that it was all stolen? Master, I had no choice. If I didn't give the Chenkuan pouch to Zhuowen, I'm afraid my disciple would have died in the Spirit Curse Tower. As for the star blaze, it was sucked away by Zhuowen's strange round cauldron spirit treasure. At that time, I didn't expect. Su Yang's voice became softer and softer as he spoke. Master Hue Yun, what made you so angry? Master Kuya, who was sitting in front, suddenly turned his head and stared at Master Hue Yun with a smile. Kuya, you don't have to be so hypocritical. Your Broken Rock City has won the Arcana ceremony this time. This old man admits it. However, I hope you can give us an explanation, Master Hue Yun said coldly to Master Kuya. Oh, explanation? What explanation do you want? Master Kuya was a little surprised at Master Hue Yun's straightforward admission of defeat. He asked with a faint smile. That Zhuowen is too daring. This time in the Spirit Curse Tower, he actually snatched Su Yang's Chenkuan pouch and even his origin flame, the Star Blaze. As the host of this Arcana ceremony, I hope that when Zhuowen comes out later, he will return Su Yang's Chenkuan pouch and the Star Blaze. Otherwise, don't blame this old man for being rude. Master Hue Yun stared coldly at Master Kuya. His tone was extremely cold. He didn't care too much about Su Yang's Chenkuan pouch, but he couldn't lose the star blaze. After all, it took him more than 20 years to find the star blaze. He didn't want to give it to Zhuowen for nothing. Master Huayun's voice wasn't soft and immediately attracted the attention of the other people in the VIP seats. When they heard Master Huayun say that Su Yang's Chenkuan pouch and star blaze had been snatched away by Zhuowen, a strange expression appeared on their faces. That Zhuowen is really something. He actually robbed Su Yang. It seems that he deserves to be the champion of this arcana ceremony. It seems that the biggest dark horse this time is Zhuowen. He didn't even let go of Su Yang's origin flame. How ruthless. Suddenly, there was a clamor of discussion around them. Hearing the discussion around them, Su Yang and Master Huayun's faces turned even uglier. Even Master Ku Ya couldn't help but be startled. Then, a playful smile appeared on his face and he said, "So that's how it is. But Master Huayun, didn't you read the rules of the third stage? In the Spirit Curse Tower, this old man didn't say that fighting and robbing are prohibited. As long as no one dies, everything is allowed." Speaking of this, Master Ku Ya cast a sidelong glance at Su Yang and continued, "Since your disciple's things were snatched away by Zhuowen, then your disciple can only blame himself for being too weak. He deserved to be robbed. You, Ku Ya, you've got guts. Since your Broken Rock City's arcane guild isn't willing to hand it over, then this old man can only take it by force." Master Huayun's eyes were cold as he gritted his teeth. Boom! A mountain-like aura suddenly burst out from the VIP seats. Then, Cho, who had been motionless, suddenly stood up. He turned his head and looked coldly at Master Huayun. He said coldly, "Old dog. How dare you snatch someone this old man wants to protect? Believe it or not, this old man will kill you right now." Master Huayun was stunned. He had forgotten that Zhuowen was Cho's man. Now that he felt the deep killing intent in Cho's eyes, cold sweat broke out on his forehead. However, he remained silent. Under Cho's threat, he didn't dare to make a sound. Looking at Master Huayun's somewhat weak performance, Su Yang's pupils suddenly shrank. He looked at Cho with fear and said fiercely in his heart, "Damn it, where did that Zhuowen come from? Why is there such a perverted person protecting him?" After looking at Cho with fear, Master Huayun no longer had the face to stay. He waved his sleeves and a powerful mental strength wrapped around Su Qi and Su Yang. He was about to break through the air, but he was stopped by Master Ku Ya. "Ku Ya, what else do you want?" Master Huayun's face was cold as he looked gloomily at Master Ku Ya in front of him. He. "Huayun, have you forgotten the bet with Senior Chiu? Since you've lost, then hand over the Grade 4 Origin Array." Master Ku Ya stretched out his hand and said rather impolitely. When Su Yang and Su Qi heard this, a trace of doubt appeared on their faces. They only looked at Master Huayun with a strange expression. They didn't know anything about the bet between Master Huayun and Cho. Damn it! Master Huayun secretly cursed. He patted his Chenkuan bag and painfully took out a black wooden box. He threw it to Master Ku Ya and said, "This is the Grade 4 Origin Array, 8th-level Netherworld." Master Ku Ya smiled as he received the wooden box. After carefully inspecting it, he said with a smile, "Thank you for your gift, Brother Huayun. If you want to bet again in the future, feel free to come to our Broken Rock City." When Master Huayun heard these words, he almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. He coldly glared at Master Ku Ya before waving his sleeves and breaking through the air. "Congratulations to Master Ku Ya. We'll take our leave first." Master Han Yun cupped his hands towards Master Ku Ya as he watched Master Huayun break through the air. He also left the VIP seats with the few disciples behind him. Haha. That Zhuowen really has guts. He actually dared to rob Master Huayun's disciple. It's really too satisfying. Master Ku Ya suddenly laughed out loud as he watched the few people leave through the sky. Cho's mouth also revealed a smile as he said indifferently, "Next, we'll wait for Zhuowen to come down. The Grade 4 Origin Array that you put up this time is pretty good. I'm afraid that thing is very suitable for Zhuowen." "Yes. However, The mental energy pressure on the 8th floor has already reached grade 4. We can only see if that little fellow, Zhuo Wen, can reach the stone pillar on the 8th floor. If he can't, then our arcane guild can only benefit from the grade 4 Yuan array. Master Ku Ya said with a smile. Old man, you're really insatiably greedy. Didn't I just help you win a grade 4 origin array? Even if that little guy Zhuoan can't get the grade 4 origin array on the 8th floor, your arcane guild must hand it over. Cho shrugged and said rather shamelessly. Another 5 days passed. At this time, it had already been a month since the opening of the Spirit Curse Tower. On the 8th floor of the Spirit Curse Tower, countless mental energy pressures were like a curtain of rain as they pattered and covered every corner of the 8th floor. The powerful pressure almost caused the air on this floor to distort. A figure was sitting cross-legged like an old monk in meditation. 30 steps in front of this figure was a stone platform that was as tall as a person. On the stone platform was a brocade box. Suddenly, the figure abruptly opened his eyes. A ray of light burst out from the depths of his eyes. Then, the air on the 8th floor boiled at this moment. Then, the mental energy pressure that was as thick as a curtain of rain actually gathered towards the figure. Countless mental energy pressures almost surrounded the figure and constantly revolved around him like a hurricane. Break for me. Break. Break. The figure suddenly stood up. Following which, his foot violently stomped on the ground. A wave of mental energy that could cause even the heavens and earth to submit violently surged out from his body. The powerful strength almost tore apart the surrounding hurricane-like mental energy pressure. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the mental energy pressure surrounding him collapsed inch by inch. The remaining mental energy pressure actually retreated at this moment and didn't dare to approach the figure anymore. Haha! I've finally broken through to the perfect grade 3 arcana. The power of comprehension on the 8th floor is really rich. It only took me a month to break through. Zhuoan raised his head and laughed heartily. With the 81 strands of mental energy in your body, once you break through to the perfect grade 3 arcana master, your strength will probably surpass that of a normal arcana master at the perfect grade 3 arcana master. I'm afraid you'll be comparable to a half-step grade 4 arcana master. Xiao Hei's voice rang out in his mind. Yes. After breaking through, the pressure on the 8th floor doesn't have much of an effect on me. Let's not talk about this for now. Let's see how the grade 4 origin array in the brocade box on the stone platform is like. Chapter 296. Limitless sword aura. Arriving at the front of the stone platform, Zhuowen's gaze focused on the brocade box. He knew that this brocade box contained the final reward of the Arcana ceremony, the grade 4 Yuan array. Picking up the brocade box, Zhuowen was slightly excited. Ever since he saw the golden armored general array used by Lu Yuanhua in the ancient cave mansion, he had a strong desire for a grade 4 Yuan array. I wonder what kind of Yuan array is contained in this brocade box. Muttering to himself, Zhuowen opened the brocade box in his hand without hesitation. The moment the brocade box was opened, a sharp sword aura immediately poured out like a storm. Following which, rays of cold light swept out from the brocade box. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes, but did not dodge. Instead, he coldly sized up the sharp cold light pouring out from the brocade box, as well as the proud and sharp sword aura. Clang! In just an instant, the sword chi and cold light that gushed out from the brocade box actually directly transformed into a sword formation that was over 10 m above Zhuo Wen, and the sword chi was piercing while cold light gushed out. This is... Staring blankly at the sword array with countless sword auras swirling above, Zhuowen subconsciously muttered. Just as Zhuowen's heart was filled with doubts, a message was suddenly transmitted into Zhuowen's mind from the brocade box. Grade 4 Yuan array. Limitless sword aura. The core sword array is formed by 9 high-grade sword-shaped soul treasures. The outer sword array is formed by 72 middle-grade sword-shaped soul treasures. A total of 81 sword-shaped soul treasures. Together, they form the limitless sword aura array. Its power is earth-shattering, causing the sun and moon to dim. 9 high-grade sword-shaped soul treasures and 72 middle-grade sword-shaped soul treasures. This is too extravagant. If the full power of this limitless sword aura is unleashed, Wouldn't it be comparable to an earthly soul treasure? After reading the message in his mind, Zhuowen could not help but reveal a shocked expression. One must know that until now, he only had the demon moon dragon spine spear, a middle-grade soul treasure. Although the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron was an earthly soul treasure, without collecting 9 types of earth fire, the power it could unleash would be very little. However, this limitless sword aura was formed by 81 sword-shaped soul treasures. Among them, 9 were high-grade sword-shaped soul treasures. Zhuowen could not help but be astonished. The Broken Rock City Arcane Guild is really generous. To actually take out this grade 4 Yuan array with extremely powerful attack. If this Dragon Lord is not wrong, the power of this boundless sword aura is much stronger than your incomplete 9-wheel burning heaven cauldron. Xiao Hei suddenly jumped out at this time and looked at the boundless sword aura that was filled with sword chi as he praised. Yes. Offensive Yuan arrays are much more precious than other types of Yuan arrays. I didn't expect Master Kuya to be so bold as to use a grade 4 Yuan array like the limitless sword aura as the reward for the champion of the arcane art ceremony. Zhuowen nodded slightly and said with a face full of excitement. But this limitless sword aura is made from 81 soul treasures. I'm afraid it won't be that easy to completely refine it. Xiao Hei rubbed his chin and said with a smile. That's true. But there's no hurry. After all, there's still 1.5 years until the Tower of Vitality battle. In this 1.5 years, I'll be able to completely refine this limitless sword aura. At that time, I'll have another powerful trump card. Nodding slightly, Zhuowen cast his gaze outside the tower and said indifferently, a month has passed. I'm afraid that the other contestants in the Spirit Spell Tower have almost all left the tower. After Su Yang was injured by me, it's impossible for him to last a month on the 7th floor. I'm afraid that the people outside now know that I'm the champion. It's time for me to leave. After he finished speaking, he kept the limitless sword aura floating in the air into his Chenkuan bag and left the tower without any reluctance. When Zhuowen's figure finally appeared at the bottom of the Spirit Spell Tower, everyone in the VIP seats uniformly gathered their gazes on him. Everyone knew that the champion of this arcane ceremony was won by this ordinary-looking young man in front of them. Zhuowen felt a little uncomfortable when he sensed the heated gazes from the VIP seats. Shifting his gaze, Zhuowen locked onto the seats of Cho and the rest in the VIP seats. With a step, he directly arrived at the seats where Cho and the rest were seated. Haha. Zhuowen, well done. This old man didn't misjudge you. You've indeed become the champion of the arcane ceremony. Cho was the first to step forward and gave Zhuowen a bear hug as he laughed heartily. Zhuowen, how did you beat Su Yang? And how did you enter the 8th floor? Master Ku Ye also had a smile on his face, but he still asked the question in his heart. The moment Master Ku Ye's question was asked, it immediately attracted the attention of many people. They really wanted to know how the young man in front of them, whose cultivation was only at initial grade 3, beat Su Yang, who was at perfect grade 3. That's because my original strength was at the advanced 3rd grade. With the help of the Spirit Curse Tower's power of comprehension, I made a breakthrough and reached the perfect 3rd grade. Zhuowen smiled faintly as he directly released the powerful mental energy in his Niwen Palace. He knew that sometimes, words were not enough, so it was better to take action than to explain. It really is the mental energy of perfect grade 3. It seems that Zhuowen wasn't able to become the champion of this arcane ceremony by luck. This Zhuowen is only 17 or 18 years old, but his strength is actually more powerful than Su Yang's. This kid's talent is really terrifying. Feeling the powerful mental energy surging out of Zhuowen's body, the people around the VIP seats suddenly burst into an uproar. Everyone's gaze towards Zhuowen had changed. It was filled with awe, envy, and a trace of reverence. Master Ku Ye's pupils couldn't help but shrink. Then, he laughed and said, I didn't expect Zhuo Xiaoyu to have hidden your strength so well. It turns out that your strength has already reached advanced grade 3, and you even made a breakthrough in the Spirit Spell Tower. This time, Zhuo Xiaoyu really deserves to be the champion of the arcane ceremony. Beside Master Ku Ye, Xuanai's beautiful eyes stared straight at Zhuowen. Her eyes were filled with a complicated expression. She also didn't expect that the young man in front of her, who she didn't take seriously at the beginning, would become the champion of this arcane ceremony. He had also indirectly restored the reputation of Broken Rock City's arcane guild. Biting her lower lip, Xuanai suddenly came in front of Zhuowen. She bowed deeply to Zhuowen and said softly with a sincere expression, "Zhuowen, I really have to thank you this time. I was blind at the beginning. I hope you don't take offense." Looking at the cold and arrogant Xuanai in front of him, who actually lowered her head and bowed to him, Zhuowen couldn't help but be shocked. In his impression, Xuanai was an extremely proud woman who wouldn't easily lower her head. But now, she was standing in front of him and thanking him. This made Zhuowen feel rather awkward. Rubbing his nose, Zhuowen laughed dryly and said, "Actually, it's nothing. The purpose of my participation in the arcane ceremony this time is for the Grade 4 Origin Crystal. Regardless of whether it has anything to do with the reputation of Broken Rock City, I will become the champion this time." At this moment, a heavy palm suddenly patted Zhuowen's shoulder. Then, Ouyang Yuntu, who was wearing a purple robe, suddenly came to Zhuowen's side with a smile and said, "Little friend Zhuowen is very lucky. Xuanai is usually very arrogant and rarely treats others with such an attitude, especially to a man. You are the first one I have seen." Ouyang Yuntu's interruption immediately caused the atmosphere between Zhuowen and Xuanai to become rather strange. Zhuowen was thick-skinned, so he only shrugged his shoulders. However, Xuanai's personality was originally rather arrogant. After Ouyang Yuntu's teasing, traces of crimson instantly appeared on her snow-white face. Her clear and cold eyes were actually secretly sizing up Zhuowen. At this moment, Grandmaster Kang Mu and Grandmaster Xian Ling, who were sitting in the corner, also brought Ouyang Yatao and Ouyang Shishirai to Zhuowen. Among them, Grandmaster Kang Mu's old face was filled with excitement. Originally, he didn't have much hope for Zhuowen to become the champion, but now that Zhuowen had unexpectedly become the champion, the excitement in Grandmaster Kang Mu's heart was naturally indescribable. Seeing that Grandmaster Kang Mu had arrived, Zhuowen naturally cupped his hands and said respectfully, "Greetings, Grandmaster Kang Mu." In front of so many outsiders, Zhuowen still gave Grandmaster Kang Mu a lot of face. At the very least, he didn't call him old man. "Zhuowen, as expected of my good disciple, to be able to become the champion of the Arcana ceremony, haha. I'm really overjoyed." Grandmaster Kang Mu couldn't help but grin as he spoke. "Kang Mu, you've really taken in a good disciple. Even this old man is rather envious of this disciple of yours." Beside him, Grandmaster Ku Yae's face was filled with envy. 4 Arcana masters like them, refining high-grade origin crystals was naturally quite delightful, but what made them feel even more accomplished was being able to hand over a genius disciple. Hearing Grandmaster Ku Yae's praise, Grandmaster Kang Mu couldn't stop smiling. His eyes were filled with gratification, but in his heart, he was shouting that he had taken in the right disciple. "Little friend Zhuowen, since you've entered the 8th floor, I'm afraid that you've also obtained the Grade 4 Origin Array on the 8th floor. I wonder if you're satisfied with the Grade 4 Origin Array?" Grandmaster Ku Yae suddenly smiled as he looked at Zhuowen and asked. Zhuowen was startled, but immediately nodded and smiled, "I'm satisfied. I'm really satisfied. I didn't expect that President Ku Yae would actually use an offensive Grade 4 Origin Array as the reward for this Arcana ceremony. I know that your martial arts realm isn't low, so I'm afraid that the Boundless Sword Aura is of great help to you. However, I can tell you clearly that the Boundless Sword Aura is the painstaking work of the previous president of the Arcana Guild, but it's only a half-finished product. If it's a finished product, I'm afraid it can reach the power of a Grade 5 Origin Array." Speaking of this, Grandmaster Ku Yae's face suddenly revealed a cautious look. Chapter 297. 3 Great Sword Moves. The pitch-black night was like a black dragon, gloomily pressing down on the horizon, causing the entire land to be shrouded in a dark atmosphere. 3 days had passed since the arcane arts ceremony. In these 3 days, Zhuowen had become the most talked-about figure in Broken Rock City. He was only 17 years old, but he had the strength of a complete Grade 3. Moreover, in the arcane arts ceremony where geniuses were born, he valiantly defeated the #1 genius of Anding City, Su Yang, and became the champion of the arcane arts ceremony. At this point, the originally unknown Zhuowen had become a famous figure in Broken Rock City. In a loft far away from the Arcane Arts Guild, Zhuowen sat quietly on an armchair. He stared straight at the brocade box in his hand and smiled bitterly. I really didn't expect that this limitless sword aura is only a half-completed Yuan array. If this thing was completed, then it would be a genuine 5th-grade Yuan array. Even the peak power of the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron can't compare to it. The Arcana Master who was able to create this boundless sword aura is quite impressive. Even though it's only a half-finished product, its power is already comparable to a Grade 4 origin formation. I'm afraid that the person who created this origin formation is also an extremely talented individual. Xiao Hei, who was sitting on Zhuowen's shoulder, suddenly spoke. The limitless sword intent is made up of a total of 81 soul treasures. If I want to completely refine it, I'm afraid it will be difficult to do so within half a year. Zhuowen's eyes flickered as he muttered to himself. Indeed. If it was just one soul treasure, it would be rather convenient to refine it. However, there are a total of 81 soul treasures in this infinite sword aura. Furthermore, each soul treasure has a special connection with each other. This makes it much more difficult to refine it. Xiao Hei nodded as she spoke. Xiao Hei. Zhuowen suddenly turned to look at Xiao Hei and asked, I wonder if the power of the boundless sword aura is stronger than the ice fire? He. Although the power of the boundless sword aura isn't bad, if you use the combination of the 9 heavens thunder blazing flame and extreme frost to create the ice fire, I'm afraid it's a lot weaker. This Dragon Lord estimates that even an ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator would find it difficult to withstand that level of frost and fire. However, the boundless sword aura isn't that powerful, Xiao Hei said as he stroked his chin. Looks like this ice fire is still my trump card. However, with my current physique, I'm afraid I won't be able to withstand the Earth-grade ice and fire energy's ice explosion. Looks like I need to quickly practice the jade stone body tempering technique that I obtained from the Zhao family ancestor. Zhuowen lowered his head and muttered to himself. You're right. However, you should first refine the everlasting sword intent. Although it takes a long time to refine, its power is not bad. Xiao Hei said lazily. Yes. Looks like I'll need to go into seclusion for half a year. I'll have to talk to old man Kang Mu about this. At the same time, he can help protect me. With that, Zhuowen sat down cross-legged and began to silently cultivate. Early the next morning, Zhuowen discussed the matter of going into seclusion with Grandmaster Kang Mu. Grandmaster Kang Mu also knew that Zhuowen needed to refine the boundless sword aura, so he readily agreed. As for the guests who wanted to visit Zhuowen, Grandmaster Kang Mu was naturally the one who sent them away during this half a year. After discussing the matter of going into seclusion with Grandmaster Kang Mu, Zhuowen directly found a secluded loft. After setting up a powerful restriction in the surroundings, he began to refine the boundless sword aura for a long period of time. 3 months after Zhuowen went into seclusion, the city lord of Broken Rock City, Ouyang Yuntu, suddenly rushed to Grandmaster Kang Mu's loft. In the hall, Grandmaster Kang Mu and Ouyang Yuntu sat opposite each other. Grandmaster Kang Mu personally poured a cup of tea for Ouyang Yuntu and said with a smile, City Lord Ouyang, may I know the reason for your visit? Taking a sip of tea, Ouyang Yuntu smiled and said, this old man came to look for young friend Zhuowen. Why haven't I seen young friend Zhuowen come out? Grandmaster Kang Mu was startled, then said apologetically, City Lord Ouyang, you came at the wrong time. Zhuowen is currently in seclusion refining the boundless sword aura, right? I'm afraid he hasn't come out yet. Oh, he's already in seclusion? Looks like this old man really came at the wrong time. However, how long will young friend Zhuowen be in seclusion for? Ouyang Yuntu asked with a frown. Zhuowen said that he would need half a year. It's already been 3 months. There should be 3 more months. Grandmaster Kang Mu didn't beat around the bush and directly told Ouyang Yuntu the exact time. 3 more months. Looks like there's still time. Grandmaster Kang Mu, if Zhuowen comes out of seclusion in 3 months, tell him to come find me at the City Lord's mansion. This is this old man's personal token. As long as you have this token, you can directly enter the City Lord's mansion. As he spoke, Ouyang Yuntu took the silver token from his waist and handed it to Grandmaster Kang Mu. Grandmaster Kang Mu carefully received the token and nodded. He said solemnly, "City Lord Ouyang, don't worry. In 3 months, this old man will definitely give it to Zhuoan." "That's good. Since there's nothing else, this old man will take his leave." Ouyang Yuntu nodded with satisfaction, then cupped his hands and left the hall. Looking at the departing figure of Ouyang Yuntu, a trace of doubt appeared on Grandmaster Kang Mu's face. He muttered in a low voice, "I wonder why City Lord Ouyang is in such a hurry to find Zhuoan." Time flew by, and another 3 months passed. It had been half a year since Zhuoan went into seclusion. Early in the morning, when the first ray of sunlight penetrated the clouds and shone on the earth, Grandmaster Kang Mu had already woken up early. He came to a rather spacious courtyard and quietly waited. In the depths of the courtyard, there was a rather inconspicuous pavilion. If one looked carefully, one could see that there was a stream of light overflowing from the surface of this inconspicuous pavilion. Obviously, someone had placed a powerful enchantment around the pavilion. Zhuoan is quite cautious. He actually placed a restriction around the place where he went into seclusion. With the might of this restriction, I'm afraid that even a heavenly king stage cultivator wouldn't be able to break in. Grandmaster Kang Mu silently stood in the courtyard and looked at the restriction in front of him as he muttered to himself. Boom! With an earth-shattering sound, the pavilion that was originally sitting quietly in front of him suddenly collapsed. Countless amounts of dust flew in all directions, almost obscuring his vision. Amidst the dust that obstructed one's line of sight, numerous sharp sword qi that emitted a dense cold light suddenly burst out. It was as if countless dragons were dancing in the air, flying in all directions and tearing apart the air. Deng deng deng. The crisp sound of footsteps slowly rang out. Then, a slender figure slowly walked out from the dust-filled air. Strangely, there were countless cold lights flashing around this figure. If one looked carefully, these cold lights turned out to be sword-shaped spiritual treasures with powerful auras. They were constantly flying and gliding around this figure along a fixed trajectory. It was gorgeous and colorful. The refinement was successful. Looking at the figure walking over step by step, Grandmaster Kang Mu's face suddenly revealed a trace of joy and couldn't help muttering to himself. When this figure walked out of the dust range, a rather handsome young man's face was revealed. This young man was naturally Zhuoan. Looking at the sword-shaped spiritual treasures flying around him, Zhuoan suddenly revealed a happy smile. Then, his right hand suddenly swung down. The long swords that were constantly gliding and dancing suddenly emitted a clear and melodious sword sound. Then, the tips of the swords pointed downwards and rustled as they were inserted into the ground. With 9 high-grade sword-shaped spiritual treasures as the core, the remaining 72 long swords circled around Zhuoan, forming a concentric circle. Zhuoan was the center of the concentric circle. Looking at the swords around him with satisfaction, Zhuoan knew that the refinement of the everlasting sword aura was complete. And after half a year of refinement, Zhuoan was quite familiar with the everlasting sword aura. However, what surprised Zhuoan was that this everlasting sword aura formation actually contained 3 major sword moves. The 3 major sword moves were Flying Sword Slash, Falling Flower Wave Breaking Attack, and Returning Heaven Sword Dance 9 consecutive moves. Among them, the Returning Heaven Sword Dance 9 consecutive moves was the most powerful. It was said that this sword move used 9 core main swords and 72 secondary swords. In an instant, 9 sword moves were consecutively released. Its power was said to be able to shatter a mountain into pieces. However, each of the 3 major sword moves of the everlasting sword aura was incomparably profound. Although Zhuoan had refined it for half a year, he had not even mastered the first move, Flying Sword Slash. At the moment, Zhuoan could only control the everlasting sword aura to perform ordinary attacks and defenses. However, with the might of the everlasting sword aura, even if it was just an ordinary attack and defense, it would not be weaker than an Ultimate Emperor Realm expert. If he could learn the 3 major sword moves, with his strength at the profound Earth King realm, he would probably be able to kill an Ultimate Emperor Realm expert. With a gentle wave of his right hand, Zhuoan stored the everlasting sword aura into his Chenkuan bag. Then, he noticed that Grandmaster Kang Mu was looking at him from a nearby courtyard. With a faint smile, Zhuoan strode towards Grandmaster Kang Mu and said, "Old man Kang Mu, I didn't expect you to be waiting for me here so early in the morning. I'm afraid you have something important to tell me." Grandmaster Kang Mu smiled as he looked at Zhuoan. With a wave of his sleeve, a silver token shot towards Zhuoan. "This is City Lord Ouyang's waste token?" After receiving the silver token, Zhuoan noticed that the word Ouyang was written on the front of the token, while the word Yuntu was written on the back. Obviously, this was Ouyang Yuntu's waste token. "Yes. City Lord Ouyang came to look for you 3 months ago. When he saw that you were in seclusion, he did not disturb you. Instead, he left his waste token and asked you to bring it to the City Lord mansion when you came out of seclusion." Grandmaster Kang Mu nodded slightly and said calmly, "Oh, why is City Lord Ouyang looking for me?" Holding the silver token, Zhuoan raised his eyebrows and asked curiously, "I don't know. After all, City Lord Ouyang didn't tell me anything at that time. However, everything will become clear when you go to the City Lord mansion to look for City Lord Ouyang." Grandmaster Kang Mu shook his head. "All right then, I'll go to the City Lord mansion to take a look." Chapter 298. A gunshot splatter. Broken Rock City was many times larger than Ratanama City. On the way to the city governor's mansion, Zhuoan took a quick look at the bustling scene of Broken Rock City. He could not help but secretly praise the foundation of a super city. After passing through a few main streets, Zhuoan saw a huge building in the center of the city from afar. He knew that the majestic building should be the Broken Rock City's City Lord Mansion. Along the way, quite a number of people had noticed Zhuoan, but most of them did not pay much attention to him. Although Zhuoan's reputation in Broken Rock City had spread far and wide due to the Arcana Grand Ceremony, only the VIPs in the Arcana trial field had seen Zhuoan's face. Most of the residents of Broken Rock City had only heard of Zhuoan's name and had never seen Zhuoan in person. That was why Zhuoan did not attract much attention when he walked on the streets. Arriving in front of the main entrance of the City Lord's mansion, Zhuoan looked at the 3 large words City Lord's Mansion that were written in bold strokes. The corners of his mouth curled into a smile as he prepared to step into the mansion. Thud, thud, thud. At this moment, the sound of hurried horse hooves suddenly sounded from a nearby street. Zhuoan's ears twitched slightly as he furrowed his brows and turned his head to look. With his strength, he could instantly tell that the sound of hurried horse hooves could not be produced by one person. Only a group of at least 10 people could produce such a loud and clear sound. That's strange. It's rare to see someone who dares to ride a horse so arrogantly in the vicinity of the City Lord's mansion, Zhuoan muttered softly as he looked at the end of the street. Not long after, a dozen figures riding tall horses suddenly appeared at the end of the street. Moreover, these people did not have any scruples at all. Even though there were pedestrians on both sides of the street, not only did they not slow down, they even waved their whips to increase their speed. My stall. They've all been trampled. I was knocked down. My right arm was dislocated and fractured. How can we do business like this? The customers were all scared away. The stalls and pedestrians on both sides of the street were all knocked away by the rampaging horse caravan. Some of the pedestrians who couldn't dodge in time were directly sent flying and vomited blood. In an instant, the originally quiet and tranquil street was suddenly disturbed by the sudden appearance of this group of horses. However, the strange thing was that no one dared to step out and criticize this group of horses that were charging forward. Instead, no one dared to speak out. At the front of the group was a young lady wearing a red veil. Her pure white jade-like hand held a fiery red whip. She gently waved her jade-like hand and violently slapped the horse's buttocks, continuously increasing its speed. A silver bell-like laughter was also slowly transmitted over. "Miss, there's a person standing in front of the mansion. What should we do?" A middle-aged man with a full beard beside the red-clothed girl suddenly said to the girl. Hearing this, the red-clothed young lady also saw Zhuoan standing in front of the mansion. An arc suddenly surfaced from the corners of her Yinghong mouth as she sneered, "Let's go straight over. Since this person is blocking our path, he deserves to die. At that time, we'll just take out some silver and give it to this fellow's family." When the middle-aged man heard this, he didn't say anything else. Instead, he followed closely beside the young lady. Evidently, this wasn't the first time that the young lady had done something like this. Looking at the group of horses that didn't slow down but instead sped up, Zhuowen's eyes immediately narrowed. He knew that this group of horses that were galloping towards him probably didn't care about his life at all. "Since that's the case, don't blame me." Muttering softly, Zhuowen stared at the group of horses that were galloping towards him. He secretly circulated the yuan power in his body as he prepared to deal with the incoming attack. The horse that the young lady was riding at the front of the group instantly arrived in front of Zhuowen. Just as the strong horse's hooves were about to step on Zhuowen's body, Zhuowen's footsteps suddenly shifted. His right hand was like a nimble snake as he grabbed the reins. Subsequently, his left hand carried the force of 1,000 pounds as it violently struck the horse's neck. Nay. After receiving such a heavy blow, the horse immediately raised its head and let out a mournful neigh. Its 4 hooves were in a mess as it violently fell to the side. The young lady dressed in red clearly didn't expect such an unforeseen event to occur. Her delicate body swayed wildly as her lower body became unstable. Fortunately, the young lady's reaction was fast enough. She stared at Zhuowen in front of her and waved her jade-like hand. The fiery red whip suddenly lashed towards Zhuowen, intending to use him as a cushion. Zhuowen's gaze hardened as he coldly snorted. His right hand grabbed at the air and directly grabbed the red whip that was lashing towards him. After which, he suddenly exerted some force and directly pulled the unruly red-clothed young lady over. After which, he shook his hand once again and a powerful force was transmitted along with the whip. The young lady, who was in midair, was immediately sent flying by this powerful force. "Young lady." Due to this unforeseen event, the group immediately stopped their horses. The middle-aged man, who was closest to the young lady, immediately revealed a worried expression. With a loud shout, he directly burst forth with yuan power. With a leap, he caught the young lady who was sent flying. After a few leaps in midair, he steadily stopped on the ground. Looking at the middle-aged man, who burst forth with powerful yuan power, Zhuowen's gaze slightly focused as he softly muttered to himself, "Perfect Earth King stage?" The strength of the group wasn't very high. Among them, the middle-aged man should be considered the strongest person in the group. As for the young lady dressed in red, she was even younger than Zhuowen and her strength was only at corporeal yang stage. She posed no threat to Zhuowen at all. "You actually dare to injure young lady. You must be tired of living. This person is extremely daring. Kill him." At this time, the rest of the group reacted one after another. Immediately, they all glared at Zhuowen. Only a clanging sound could be heard as these people took out their respective weapons and directly charged towards Zhuowen. Slightly furrowing his brows, Zhuowen didn't expect these people to attack just like that. Moreover, they were in front of the city lord's mansion's entrance. These people's actions were too arrogant. It seems like these people should be from the city lord's mansion. Otherwise, they wouldn't dare to attack in front of the city lord's mansion. However, even if they are from the city lord's mansion, I, Zhuowen, am not afraid. With Qiu Qiu, the strongest person in Broken Rock City, behind him, even Ouyang Yuntu wouldn't dare to casually touch Zhuowen. Moreover, with Zhuowen's character, it wasn't suitable for him to avoid everything. Scram. Otherwise, die. With a cold snort, Zhuowen took a step forward. The aura of an advanced Earth King stage suddenly burst out from his body. Violent yuan power formed a violent yuan power hurricane around his body. Suddenly, it violently collided with the people rushing towards him from all directions. Oh my god. He is actually an Earth King stage expert. This kid is only 17 years old. How can he be so strong? The other people in the group were basically in the human king stage. Only the middle-aged man was relatively strong. At this time, the middle-aged man was protecting the red-clothed girl. He didn't join the others in attacking Zhuowen. Thus, under the effect of the yuan power hurricane released from Zhuo Wen's body, the dozen or so people who had rushed over were all sent flying backwards at a speed even faster than before. In the end, they crashed heavily onto the ground, and for a moment, miserable screams rose and fell one after another. Looking at the yuan power hurricane around Zhuo Wen's body, the middle-aged man not far away couldn't help but turn pale with frown. He whispered, "This young man is so young, but he actually has the strength of an advanced Earth King stage expert. I'm afraid he is a genius from a big family in the city." At this time, the red-clothed girl's face was already red with anger. The fall of the horse just now made her lose face. Her heart was already filled with anger towards the culprit, Zhuowen. "Uncle Liu, go and capture this damned fellow. I want to properly torture this damned fellow. Since he dared to embarrass me, I'll have you pay with your life." The red-clothed girl stomped her foot and said to the middle-aged man beside her in a flustered and exasperated manner, "Miss, I'm afraid this young man is not an ordinary person. Perhaps he is a genius from a big family in the city. I'm afraid we can't offend him." The middle-aged man looked hesitant. "What are you afraid of? Our city lord's mansion is the manager of Broken Rock City. Which family doesn't follow our city lord's mansion's lead? So what if this guy is a genius from a big family? If you offend me, you won't have a good ending. Hurry up and kill this kid." The red-clothed girl's face was gloomy as she shouted at the middle-aged man beside her. The middle-aged man sighed inwardly. Then, he looked at the young man in front of him with pity and muttered, "This young man's talent is not bad. Unfortunately, he has offended the young lady. I'm afraid that such a good talent will be ruined because of this." The middle-aged man was quite confident in dealing with the young man in front of him. After all, he was a perfect Earth King stage warrior, while the young man in front of him was only at the advanced Earth King stage. There was a small gap between the two of them. Thinking of this, the middle-aged man patted his Chenkuan bag and took out a broadsword. He stomped his foot on the ground and rushed toward Zhuowen with endless yuan power. "Kid, with such talent, you should have a great future. But now that you have offended Miss, you can only blame yourself for being unlucky. If you want to regret it, you should regret it in hell." In an instant, he arrived in front of Zhuowen and muttered to himself. The middle-aged man tightened his grip on the hilt of the broadsword and slashed it toward Zhuowen's head. When the nearby red-clothed young girl saw the middle-aged man swing his saber towards Zhuowen, her beautiful face instantly revealed a delighted expression, and a cold smile suddenly appeared on the corners of her mouth as she said, "In Broken Rock City, no one has ever dared to offend this young miss. Since you have offended me, you should be prepared to die." Boom! The broadsword was wrapped in the power of tearing through the air. Finally, it heavily chopped down. The powerful force instantly smashed a huge deep hole in the ground, and for a moment, dust filled the air. "Although I have no enmity with you, you have offended Miss. You can only blame yourself for being unlucky." The middle-aged man's eyes were cold. He walked back with his broadsword in hand. He did not believe that the young man could survive such a heavy blow. "Unlucky? Then the one who is unlucky is you." A clear voice suddenly sounded in the middle-aged man's ear. Then, the middle-aged man felt a strong wind coming from behind him. "He's not dead." The middle-aged man's eyes narrowed. He turned around and slashed with his broadsword. Boom! An ink-black spear suddenly pierced forward. With a clang, it pressed against the back of the blade. Then, the spear suddenly spun, and traces of sparks abruptly appeared. Then, the back of the blade actually pierced through like a poisonous snake, instantly piercing through the middle-aged man's shoulder. Kai. Chapter 299. The green-armored man. The cold tip of the spear was accompanied by fresh blood as it violently shot out. The middle-aged man stared at the wound on his shoulder in a daze. For a moment, he was dumbfounded. He truly did not expect that he would be injured so cleanly. Ignoring the middle-aged man who was still in a daze, Zhuowen tightened his right hand and flicked the long spear. A powerful force immediately sent the middle-aged man's body flying backwards, setting off a wave of air. Boom! The middle-aged man's sturdy body was like a withered leaf as he slammed into the ground, creating a deep pit. Dust filled the air and obscured one's vision. The scene suddenly fell into a strange silence. The dozen people who were sent flying by Zhuowen looked as if they had seen a ghost as they stared at the deep pit and the slender figure standing unscathed. They did not expect that the middle-aged man, who was at perfect Earth King stage, would be defeated by the young man in front of them. What made them even more bitter was that the young man in front of them was only at advanced Earth King stage, which was slightly weaker than the middle-aged man. Yet, he was able to defeat the middle-aged man with such strength. This showed that the young man in front of them was not ordinary. Not far away, the young lady in red, who had a sneer on her face, looked at the middle-aged man lying in the deep pit. The sneer on her pretty face instantly froze as she stared at the young man in front of her in disbelief. "How dare you touch the people of the city governor's mansion? Let me tell you, you are dead meat." However, the surprise on the young lady's face only lasted for a moment before she pointed at Zhuowen and sneered. "Ridiculous. Seeing that you are also dressed in brocade clothes and have a bright appearance, yet you are so uneducated, I will teach you a lesson on behalf of your elders." Looking at the young lady who was still making a fuss in front of him, Zhuowen's face immediately revealed a trace of impatience. With a sudden stomp of his foot, he instantly arrived in front of the young lady. His right hand lifted her collar, and his gaze was densely cold. The young lady in red did not expect the young man in front of her to be so bold as to lift her up. Her pretty face was startled for a moment before an embarrassed expression appeared on her face. She stared fiercely at the young man in front of her and said, "How dare you touch me? Do you know who I am? I am a direct descendant of the City Lord's mansion. My father is the City Lord of Broken Rock City, Ouyang Yuntu. If you dare to touch me, my father will definitely not let you off." Zhuowen couldn't help but be stunned. He didn't expect the girl before him to be a direct descendant of the City Lord's estate. Moreover, Ouyang Yuntu was her father. No wonder she was so arrogant and despotic. When the red-clothed girl saw the stunned expression on Zhuowen's face, she couldn't help but reveal a trace of complacency on her pretty face. She coldly laughed and said, "Now you know fear. If you're scared, then let me go now. Maybe I'll leave you with an intact corpse later so that you won't die so miserably." "Pa!" The crisp sound of a slap rang out. Zhuowen raised his hand and gave the noisy young girl a slap. He coldly said, "So what if you are a direct descendant of the City Lord's mansion? So what if your father is Ouyang Yuntu? With City Lord Ouyang's wisdom, it can be said that it is a stain on his reputation to have raised a wastrel like you. Now, I will teach you a lesson on behalf of City Lord Ouyang." The red-clothed girl covered her swollen right cheek and looked at the young man in front of her in disbelief. She didn't expect the young man before her to slap her without any mercy. "You dare to slap me? Even my father has never slapped me. You dare to slap me?" The red-clothed girl covered her right cheek. Traces of moisture appeared in her beautiful eyes as she hysterically cried out. "Deng deng deng." At this moment, a wave of hurried footsteps suddenly sounded from the City Lord's mansion. Subsequently, a middle-aged man in green armor walked out of the mansion with a group of guards. "Captain Liu, quickly save me. This person doesn't put our City Lord's mansion in his eyes at all. Moreover, he even threatened to kill me. Quickly save me." The red-clothed girl suddenly saw the man in green armor coming out of the mansion. Her beautiful eyes suddenly widened. It was as if she had grasped at a life-saving straw as she cried out in a delicate voice. The man in green armor had clearly also seen the situation at the red-clothed young lady's side. In addition to the messy scene in front of the mansion, his gaze immediately turned gloomy. His right hand lifted the long green spear on his back as he directly walked over. "How dare you behave so atrociously in our City Lord's mansion? I think you don't want to live anymore." Looking at the man in green armor who attacked without any reason, Zhuowen's eyes also darkened. He could feel that the man in front of him was at least at the initial Heavenly King stage. With a cold snort, he threw the red-clothed girl in his hand toward the man who was charging toward him. Looking at the red-clothed girl who was thrown toward him, the man in green armor's face twitched. His right hand withdrew the spear, and his left hand reached out and caught the red-clothed girl by her waist. Then, he directly landed on the ground and looked at the young man not far away with a cold gaze. "Captain Liu, you have to be careful. This guy in front of us is quite strong." Even Uncle Liu suffered a loss at his hands. After safely landing on the ground, the red-clothed girl sighed softly and then glared at Zhuowen, who was not far away, with resentment in her eyes. Even Uncle Liu suffered a loss at his hands. The man in green armor narrowed his eyes and saw a figure with a weak aura in a deep pit not far away. It was the Uncle Liu that the red-clothed girl had mentioned. A little brat at the advanced Earth King stage can actually defeat a perfect Earth King stage warrior. It seems like you are not simple. However, in my hands, you still can't escape the fate of death. The man in green armor's eyes became cold again. His feet lightly stepped on the ground, and his right hand stretched out. The long green spear was like a ferocious beast. The spear shot out, and the powerful force caused the surrounding air to boil. This guy is only at the advanced Earth King stage. With Captain Liu's initial Heavenly King stage strength, it should be easy for you to capture him. How dare he hit me? This guy deserves to die. The red-clothed girl became angrier as she thought about it. Her eyes were filled with cold killing intent as she looked at Zhuowen. Initial Heavenly King stage? I would like to see if I can defeat an initial Heavenly King stage expert with just the Demon Moondragon Spine Spear without using any of my trump cards. Looking at the man in green armor who was rushing towards him, Zhuowen's eyes were filled with fighting spirit. His 5 fingers clenched the handle of the spear, and then he suddenly loosened his grip. The long black spear in his hand suddenly began to spin at high speed. Then, Zhuowen's feet suddenly stomped on the ground, and the soles of his feet were filled with lightning. In an instant, he turned into an afterimage. So fast. This kid is obviously only at the Earth King stage, but his speed is actually a little dazzling. Looking at the young man who had almost turned into an afterimage, the man in green armor's face turned cold. Then, he swung his arms, and the long green spear in his hand came to an emergency stop. Then, he instantly turned around and with a clang, the sound of metal clashing could be heard. Your reaction is quite fast. However, I don't know if you can take this move of mine. Demon Moon Secret Manual, Full Moon Tower. A clear voice suddenly came from behind the man in green armor, causing his hair to stand on end. The shock in his heart became even more intense. The young man in front of him was ridiculously strong. It didn't seem like the strength of an Earth King stage cultivator at all. The moment the man in green armor was shocked, the long black spear behind him had already drawn a silver arc in the air. It seemed slow but fast as it slashed towards the man's neck. Damn it. Green armor. The azure-armored man suddenly shouted. Clanging sounds rang out, and the azure-armored man's azure-colored armor emitted a burst of azure-colored light. Then, a layer of azure-colored armor appeared around his neck. Clang. The clear sound of metal clashing suddenly rang out. Then, the long spear behind him ruthlessly collided with the green armor on the man's neck. Immediately, sparks flew in all directions, and it was exceptionally dazzling. Boom. The strong repulsion force caused the man in green armor to involuntarily retreat a dozen steps. Holding the spear with both hands, he suddenly stopped his body. Then, a trace of seriousness appeared in his eyes as he looked at the young man in front of him. A trace of surprise appeared in Zhuowen's eyes as he gazed at the green armor around the man's neck. Originally, he had thought that the attack that had slid towards the man's neck would finish him off. However, he did not expect that the green armor on the man's body was actually able to extend to his neck and protect his vitals. It's quite a strange armor. However, you won't be so lucky next time. Now, I'll finish you off with one move. Licking his lips, Zhuowen suddenly bit his thumb. Then, he gently wiped the handle of the spear. Bright red blood smeared the black handle of the spear into a somewhat demonic red. A pungent smell of blood suddenly emitted from the Demon Moon Dragon Spine Spear. Demon Moon Secret Manual Second Style, Blood Moon Soul Hook. Fiercely stomping his foot, Zhuowen's spear shot out like a dragon, and his steps were like the wind. Countless spear shadows appeared in the air like raindrops, and an enormous blood-red moon suddenly rose under the cover of the spear shadows. An extremely powerful aura poured down along with the rise of the blood-red moon. You want to finish me off with one move? It's not as easy as you think. Green abyss falling rain spear. The green-armored man gritted his teeth, and the green spear in his hands danced beautifully. Then, he suddenly thrust out the spear, and in an instant, it turned into countless green rain curtains. Every drop of rainwater in the rain curtains was like the sharpest hidden weapon in the world, able to kill upon contact with blood. In just an instant, the green rain curtains and the blood-red crescent moon collided. The green and blood-red radiance intertwined and blended into a strange brown color. Boom, boom, boom. It was as if countless bombs had exploded at the same time. An ear-piercing explosion sound rang out in the air. Endless waves of air surged out in all directions like the waves of the sea. Zhuowen's face was as heavy as water. His right hand suddenly tightened on the handle of the spear as he shouted, "Break for me." The blood-red crescent moon exploded with a dense blood-red light. It actually suppressed the green rain curtain in an instant. Then, an ear-piercing cracking sound rang out. The green rain curtain that had no gaps gradually began to crack. In the end, the rain curtain collapsed inch by inch. Poochie. A mouthful of blood was spat out. The man in green armor's face became incomparably pale. His entire body was like a withered leaf as he flew backwards. Father's token? Not far away, the red-clothed girl who was originally angry looked at the silver waist token in the green-clothed man's hand, and a trace of shock immediately appeared on her pretty face. As a direct descendant of the City Lord's mansion, the red-clothed girl clearly knew how precious Ouyang Yuntu's token was. To put it bluntly, even a daughter like her would find it difficult to obtain this silver waist token. But now, such a precious token had actually appeared on the ordinary youth in front of her. This caused the red-clothed girl, whose face was originally full of anger, to suddenly not dare to utter a word. She only looked at the youth in front of her with a complicated expression. She knew that this youth's background was probably not ordinary. "Little brother Zhuowen, come with me. The City Lord is waiting for you in his study." Carefully examining the silver waist token in his hand, the green-clothed man's smile became even wider as he spoke to Zhuowen rather courteously. After hesitating for a moment, Zhuowen scanned the mess around him and said somewhat uncertainly, "Just now, I had no choice but to injure your City Lord's mansion's guards. Little brother Zhuowen, you can rest assured. I naturally know the ins and outs of the matter." Liu Yi and Liu Huitian both took the initiative to attack little brother. "Even if little brother kills them, our City Lord's mansion will not blame you." As the green-clothed man spoke to her, his gaze slightly focused on the red-clothed girl in front of the door, who was at a loss as to what to do. He continued, "With little brother Zhuowen's current status and strength, even if you kill a good-for-nothing direct descendant, I'm afraid the City Lord won't even frown. If little brother Zhuowen wants, I can help you clean up the house." The green-clothed man's words immediately caused the red-clothed girl's pretty face to become deathly pale. Her delicate body couldn't help but tremble. Although she was indeed a direct descendant of the City Lord's mansion, there were too many direct descendants in the City Lord's mansion. Ouyang Yuntu really didn't care about the life and death of these direct descendants. Only those direct descendants with exceptional talent, strength, and potential would be valued by Ouyang Yuntu and nurtured by the City Lord's mansion. The red-clothed girl's talent was very ordinary. Moreover, she didn't work hard enough. Her status among the direct descendants was not high. Her arrogance and despotism was only toward the servants and ordinary people. If she were to face the direct descendants with high status, she would have been respectful and wouldn't dare to be the slightest bit rash. Hearing the green-clothed man's somewhat ruthless words, Zhuowen frowned slightly. He couldn't help but glance at the pale-faced girl not far away. However, he shook his head and said, "No need. I have already taught her a lesson. There is no need for Senior to personally take action. Since City Lord Ouyang is looking for me, let's go." The green-clothed man looked deeply at the youth in front of him. He smiled slightly and didn't say anything. He directly led Zhuowen into the depths of the City Lord's mansion. Looking at the gradually fading figure, The red-clothed girl's eyes were filled with a complicated and grateful expression. She knew that if it weren't for Zhuowen's words, the green-clothed man would probably have killed her. She was very clear that although this nominal third uncle of hers looked very gentle on the surface, if he really wanted to kill, he would be cold and ruthless. Even if she was related to the green-clothed man by blood, he would probably kill her without a frown. This time, I really kicked an iron plate. This youth named Zhuowen has a big background. He actually has father's waist token. It seems that father values him a lot. But why do I feel that the name Zhuowen is so familiar? I remember, half a year ago, the champion of the Arcana ceremony was a youth named Zhuowen. This person can't be that Zhuowen, right? Letting out a sigh of relief, the red-clothed girl lowered her head and pondered. She thought of someone, and a bitter smile suddenly appeared on her face. She knew that if that youth was really the champion of the Arcana ceremony, Zhuowen, she really didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth to offend this person. Under the guidance of the green-clothed man, the two quickly entered the depths of the city lord's mansion and stopped in front of a rather majestic pavilion. Little brother Zhuowen, the city lord is waiting for you inside. You can go in alone. I'll take my leave first. The green-clothed man pointed at the pavilion in front of him. After saying this, he directly left. Nodding slightly, Zhuowen directly entered the pavilion. As soon as he entered, Zhuowen saw a mighty figure sitting on the main seat in the hall, looking at him with a smile. It was the owner of the city lord's mansion, Ouyang Yuntu. At the same time, there was another person sitting next to Ouyang Yuntu. Zhuowen turned his head and saw that it was Qiu Qiu. At this moment, Qiu Qiu's face was also carrying a smile. Zhuowen greets City Lord Ouyang and Senior Qiu. Taking a step forward, Zhuowen knelt on one knee and respectfully bowed to the two of them. Zhuowen, you don't need to be so courteous. With your powerful spiritual force talent, I'm afraid that you'll break through to become a 4th-grade Arcana Master very soon. At that time, your status won't be too far off from ours. Ouyang Yuntu extended his right hand and helped Zhuowen's figure up from the ground. He smiled as he spoke. He nodded slightly. Once an Arcana Master reached the 4th grade, their status would undergo an earth-shattering change. Their status would probably be much higher than that of an ordinary Ultimate Emperor Realm expert. They would even be comparable to those high and mighty royal nobles. The reason Ouyang Yuntu spoke to Zhuowen as an equal was not only because of Zhuowen's terrifying spiritual force talent, but also because of the close relationship between Zhuowen and Qiu Qiu. Then I'll have to thank City Lord Ouyang. Zhuowen did not stand on ceremony. He nodded slightly and found a seat to sit down. He looked at Ouyang Yuntu and asked, "May I know why City Lord Ouyang is looking for me?" Ouyang Yuntu and Qiu Qiu looked at each other, then smiled and said, "There's only a year left until the Origin Energy Tower battle in Muqin County. This old man heard that little friend Zhuowen is also planning to participate in the Origin Energy Tower battle." "Oh, City Lord Ouyang is looking for me because of the Origin Energy Tower battle?" Zhuowen raised his eyebrows in surprise. "Not exactly, but it's somewhat related to the Origin Energy Tower battle in a year's time. Senior Qiu told this old man that your martial talent is not weak. I heard that you've already reached the advanced Earth King stage, right?" Ouyang Yuntu muttered to himself. Zhuowen nodded slightly in acknowledgement. Being able to reach the initial Earth King stage at your age is already a pretty good talent. Moreover, we saw how you cleanly defeated Liu Huitian in the City Lord's mansion. It's obvious that your true strength should be around the advanced Heavenly King stage. However, this kind of strength is not enough to enter the Origin Energy Tower battle. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and frowned. Not enough to enter the Origin Energy Tower? Zhuowen knew that the battle for the Vitality Tower was a grand event that occurred once every 100 years in Muqin County. It was bound to bring together countless talented people from the entire Muqin County. Moreover, there were many experts who were ranked on the Azure Emperor ranking in the Azure Mystic Empire. However, Zhuowen had many trump cards in his hands. He was very confident that he would perform well in the Origin Energy Tower battle in a year's time. The only regret was that his cultivation was too low. However, Zhuowen did not take Ouyang Yuntu's words seriously. Ouyang Yuntu also saw the disapproval on Zhuowen's face. He shook his head slightly and said, "This old man knows that you might have some powerful trump cards. Moreover, you have the grade 4 origin formation boundless sword aura that you obtained from the Arcana ceremony. However, this old man can clearly tell you that even if you have a powerful grade 4 origin formation like the boundless sword aura, it will still be difficult for you to enter the top 100 in the Origin Energy Tower battle." Chapter 301. 9 Extreme Emperor Origin Pool. This old man can clearly tell you this. According to this old man's knowledge, there are at least several hundred cultivators who are at the half-step Ultimate Emperor realm or higher among the geniuses participating in the Origin Chi Tower battle. Moreover, there are close to 100 cultivators who might already be at the Ultimate Emperor realm. Although your boundless sword aura is very powerful, it is still lacking when compared to an Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator. Ouyang Yuntu's expression immediately turned serious as he slowly spoke in a solemn tone. Zhuowen's pupils shrank when he heard this. He felt a trace of disbelief in his heart. Several hundred half-step Ultimate Emperor realm cultivators and close to 100 Ultimate Emperor realm cultivators. Just Muqin County alone had so many young experts. It was indeed a little difficult for the boundless sword aura to match an Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator. However, if Zhuowen could comprehend the 3 great sword moves within the boundless sword aura, then he wouldn't need to fear an Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator. But right now, Zhuowen hadn't even comprehended the first move, so he couldn't unleash the full power of the boundless sword aura. It seems that I've underestimated the charm of the Origin Chi Tower battle. I never thought that Muqin County alone would produce so many geniuses. However, City Lord Ouyang shouldn't have called me here just to discuss this matter, right? Zhuowen smiled bitterly as he suddenly spoke with a serious expression. Young friend Zhuowen is indeed smart. I've called you here today because of Senior Chou's request. I've specially come to lend you a hand. This old man has a method that can allow you to reach the half-step Ultimate Emperor realm in this final year. If your comprehension is high enough, you might even be able to directly ascend to the Ultimate Emperor realm. Ouyang Yuntu lightly tapped his right index finger on the armrest of his seat as he spoke words that even surprised Zhuowen. Allow me to reach the half-step Ultimate Emperor realm in a year. Zhuowen couldn't help but take a deep breath when he heard this. His heart abruptly skipped a beat. In fact, Zhuowen had not cultivated for a long time, only about 3 years in total. In these 3 years, Zhuowen had gone from nothing to the great completion Earth King realm. This showed that Zhuowen's talent was quite monstrous. Even so, Zhuowen wasn't confident that he would be able to advance by leaps and bounds to the half-step Ultimate Emperor realm in the following year. After one's strength had reached the Earth King realm, every single advancement was extremely arduous. If it weren't for the numerous fortuitous encounters Zhuowen had, he probably wouldn't have been able to achieve what he had today. But now, Ouyang Yuntu said that he had a way to help Zhuowen reach the half-step Ultimate Emperor realm within a year. How could Zhuowen not be overjoyed? Although he was wild with joy, Zhuowen didn't immediately lose his rationality. After taking a deep breath, Zhuowen calmly said, "A method that can allow an Earth King realm cultivator to reach the half-step Ultimate Emperor realm within a year. I'm afraid it's not that easy to obtain, right?" Ouyang Yuntu and Chou revealed a trace of astonishment as they looked at the calm and composed youth in front of them. To be able to remain calm in the face of such a huge temptation, this youth's temperament was truly frightening. "Little friend Zhuowen, have you heard of the 9 Extreme Royal Origin Pool?" Ouyang Yuntu pondered for a moment before asking. When Zhuowen heard this, he shook his head blankly. He had never heard of this so-called 9 Extreme Royal Origin Pool. When Ouyang Yuntu saw Zhuowen's confused expression, he didn't seem surprised in the slightest. He continued, "The method this old man mentioned that will allow you to reach the half-step Ultimate Emperor realm in a year is related to the 9 Extreme Emperor Origin Pool. As everyone knows, once a cultivator's strength reaches the Ultimate Emperor realm, their lifespan will greatly increase. It can reach hundreds or even thousands of years. It also has the effect of rejuvenating one's youth. The Ultimate Emperor realm is divided into 9 small realms, from the first wheel to the 9th wheel. The ninth wheel is the pinnacle of the ultimate Emperor realm. If one breaks through, they will reach the legendary fourth revered realm. The reason why an ultimate Emperor realm cultivator's lifespan and strength can greatly increase is mainly because the blood in their body is nourished by the energy of the world. It gradually transforms into a golden color, and the golden blood contains the veins of the world. This is the source of the ultimate Emperor realm's strength. The thicker the golden blood in an ultimate Emperor realm cultivator's body, the stronger they will naturally be. The ninth wheel is the pinnacle of the ultimate Emperor realm. At this time, the golden blood in a cultivator's body has already reached its thickest state. To be blunt, a single drop of blood from an existence at this level might be able to split a mountain. The 9 Extreme Royal Origin Pool is a pool formed from 3 drops of blood essence from a fallen ultimate Emperor realm cultivator. This pool contains the power and comprehension of the ultimate Emperor realm cultivator. If you can soak in the 9 Extreme Royal Origin Pool for 3 days and absorb a trace of the blood essence within, you will at least break through to the half-step Ultimate Emperor realm within a year. When he reached this point, Ouyang Yuntu suddenly stopped and quietly looked at the young man before him. Zhuowen's heart was shaken by Ouyang Yuntu's words. The 9 Extreme Royal Origin Pool was actually formed from 3 drops of blood essence from a Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator. One had to know that once a cultivator reached the Ultimate Emperor realm, it would be extremely difficult for them to break through. Who among those who could reach the Ultimate Emperor realm wasn't a peerless genius? This kind of cultivator had long surpassed an ordinary royal noble and stood at the peak of the entire Qing Xian Empire. I didn't expect the origin of the 9 Extreme Royal Origin Pool to be so great. However, if you want to soak in the 9 Extreme Royal Origin Pool for a few days, I'm afraid you'll have to pay a price. City Lord Ouyang, please speak clearly. Zhuowen was very calm at this moment and said indifferently. Looking at the calm Zhuowen in front of them, Ouyang Yuntu and Qiu Chou both nodded. Ouyang Yuntu then continued, "There's no such thing as a free meal in this world. The 9 Extreme Royal Origin Pool was discovered by a cultivator from the City Lord's mansion 3 months ago. It's located near the Blood Swamp not far from Broken Rock City. However, it's a pity that the people of the other super city, Anding City, also discovered the 9 Extreme Royal Origin Pool at the same time. For this reason, our 2 big cities have already sent people to negotiate. However, from the beginning to the end, we were unable to reach an agreement. In the end, we decided to use a competition to determine the ownership of the 9 Extreme Royal Origin Pool. Both sides will send out 3 cultivators, and the winner will be decided by 2 out of 3 matches. However, the strength of the 3 cultivators sent by both sides must be below the Ultimate Emperor realm. When Zhuowen heard this, he immediately asked doubtfully, "Why do you want to limit the strength of the cultivators from both sides?" Ouyang Yuntu smiled faintly and said, "Because the 9 Extreme Royal Origin Pool is only formed from 3 drops of blood essence from a 9-wheel Ultimate Emperor realm expert. It doesn't have much effect on Ultimate Emperor realm experts. Ultimate Emperor realm cultivators will simply be wasting the 9 Extreme Royal Origin Pool. Only cultivators below the Ultimate Emperor realm can bring out the greatest effect. So that's how it is. However, City Lord Ouyang is giving one of the 3 spots to compete for the 9 Extreme Royal Origin Pool to me. I'm afraid this is a little too precious." Zhuowen cupped his hands and said with a smile, "This is nothing. In the last Arcana ceremony, my young friend Zhuowen represented Broken Rock City and won the championship. You have brought glory to Broken Rock City. I haven't thanked you for that yet. Moreover, Senior Qiu also thinks highly of you, so this old man decided to give one of the spots to you." Ouyang Yuntu waved his hand and said with a laugh. Although Ouyang Yuntu looked very relaxed, Zhuowen also knew that the former had made this decision with great determination. After all, the 9 Extreme Royal Origin Pool was very beneficial to cultivators below the Ultimate Emperor realm. Ouyang Yuntu giving one of the spots to him meant that their City Lord's mansion had one less half-step Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator with potential. After taking a deep look at Ouyang Yuntu and Qiu Chou, Zhuowen bowed deeply and said seriously, "Many thanks to the 2 seniors for giving me this opportunity. I will remember this kindness in my heart." "Zhuowen, When did you become so wishy-washy? Since we've given you a spot, that means we recognize your strength. After all, it's still unknown whether our Broken Rock City can obtain the 9 Extreme Royal Origin Pool. All of this still depends on your efforts. Cho, who had been silent all this time, waved his hand impatiently and said in an indifferent tone, Senior Cho, don't worry. Since the 9 Extreme Royal Origin Pool is so important, I, Zhuoan, will definitely win it. Zhuoan was startled for a moment, but then he smiled faintly and said, Young people should have this kind of drive. The contest for the 9 Extreme Royal Origin Pool will take place in about 10 days. Come back to the City Lord's mansion in 10 days. At that time, we'll bring the other 2 little fellows to the Blood Swamp with you. I heard that you've already finished refining the boundless astral sword. Use these 10 days to familiarize yourself with the usage of the boundless astral sword. 10 days later, this old man is looking forward to your performance. After saying that, Cho waved his hand slightly and continued, I have some things to say to Ouyang Yuntu. You can leave first. Remember to gather at the City Lord's mansion in 10 days. After nodding seriously, Zhuoan respectfully cupped his hands towards the 2 of them and said, I won't disappoint the 2 seniors. I'll take my leave first. After saying that, Zhuoan directly left the hall, leaving the 2 of them in silence. Senior Chiu, do you really believe in Zhuoan's strength so much? You should know that in order to empty this spot, this junior directly took away that girl Ouyang Liushirei's spot. I'm afraid that girl is now mad with anger. After Zhuoan left, Ouyang Yuntu put his hand to his forehead and said somewhat helplessly, Ouyang, when do you think this old man's intuition was wrong? During the Arcana ceremony, didn't this old man feel that this little fellow Zhuoan wasn't simple, so I agreed to that old dog Huayun's bet? What was the result? In the end, this old man still won, and that little fellow Zhuoan won the Arcana ceremony in the end, didn't he? Cho cast a sidelong glance at Ouyang Yuntu and said with a faint smile. That's true, but although Zhuoan's mental power talent is amazing, it doesn't mean that his martial talent is as abnormal as his mental power. If this contest for the 9 Extreme Royal Origin Pool is lost because of him, then Ouyang Yuntu's face was full of helplessness. Ouyang, this old man is helping you. Today, you gave a spot to Zhuoan, which means that Zhuoan owes you a favor. Given Zhuowen's talent in mental energy, he will not be an ordinary person in the future. Don't tell me that the favor of such a monstrous genius is not worth a small 9 Extreme Royal Origin Pool. Cho narrowed his eyes and coldly said, You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.